screen. Okay. There we go. Try it now. Try it now. Hold on. Sometimes I might be able to tell. Should be good now. 6-9. Okay, thank you. So are you, Giggles. Okay, guys, let's look at the winners and losers from last night's election. I have an article here from U.S. News. That's the source we're looking at. California is still counting, right? And let's talk about California just for a second here, because it's very interesting. Something that I was not aware of, because I was always a political nerd, right? But great, Farah. I was always a political nerd, but I really didn't like look in depth at other states that weren't like my state or directly around me, and especially California, because to me, California is a blue state, and I never looked into the details too much about progressive versus establishment. I was like, oh, blue no matter who, right? Like all the way. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you. So yeah, it was like, it didn't really matter as long as a Democrat won, we were all good. That was my line of thinking. So I never looked into it too much. And then last night, we weren't on last night, but we were talking amongst ourselves, me and the team. And right, Janice. So me and the team were talking amongst ourselves about the California results, because we had 3 people that we interviewed on here. It was Anthony Christodoulou, Abel Chavez, and Tyler Vandenberg, right? And we just interviewed Tyler like a few days ago. And we were looking at the results, and we were bummed because we were only getting like 5%. Kylie is the independent that caucuses with the Republicans. Tyler was telling us about him the other night. We kind of expected him to win. But whoever comes in second place will go up against Kylie in the runoff in November, right? In the general. Hey, Elizabeth. So I was like bummed because, they all, he did endorse him his first term, but he's a Republican, right? He calls himself an independent because California is blue, but he's a Republican. People should not have any qualms about that or misconceptions, right? Kylie is a Republican. The only reason he calls himself an independent is because that's the only way he's got a shot in the dark of winning in the district that he's in. So like I said, we were bummed, right? And then I started looking at the election results a couple years ago, 2018, various other primaries. What weird messages? Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Farah. I don't see any weird messages. Independent. Yes, it does. It does. Norgai is right. Hi, Tricia. So happy to have you here, even if we only have you here for a little bit. But Norgai is right. It benefits Republicans to adopt the label of independent in jungle primaries. They absolutely do. Absolutely does. And a jungle primary is where it's not Democrats against Democrats. Hi, David. It's not Democrats against Democrats and Republicans against Republicans. Democrats, Republicans, independents, everybody who wants to win. What? Did I miss something? Oh, laryngitis. I'm sorry. I hope you feel better, Tricia. So yeah, everybody runs together, and the top 2 candidates go to a runoff, right? So that's how jungle primary works. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I had pretty much written off the idea that any of these incumbents were going to get a Democratic challenger, a progressive challenger, But then I started looking into it, looking at the data past elections and looking at this dynamic that shaped up for this specific election. So when we look at a lot of like the red states or the purple states, the swing states, what happens is Democrats usually vote early in those elections. And Republicans vote on election day. Well, California is different. See, let's see. We have a flash goal, guys. Oh, great. Achieve this goal when 10 gifters send a heart me. So we're going to have to get new people in here in order to achieve this. If you guys didn't do your heart me yet, please click here. Do your heart me. Actually, I can do it on my backup. So yeah, I started looking at it, and what I saw and what I surmised is that this shit ain't over. Okay. It's not over. It's not over for the governor's election. It's not over for these House elections. It's not over for a lot of these elections, right? So these House elections, why does TikTok do that? Yeah, I don't know, Janice, but thank you guys for the heart me's. So what we're expecting now, right? And the way that from what I see from past elections, from what I see from what people are saying about this election, is that most of the Republican votes that were going to come in have come in. So instead of the ballots that came in, instead of the votes that came in being heavily Democratic like we're used to, they were actually heavily conservative votes. Heavily conservative. From the heavily conservative spaces and places in California, right? We got a lot of the like rural vote. We got a lot of the conservative vote that was in the cities, in and around the cities and the suburbs. And so a lot of the vote that we have coming in based on previous elections, previous election years, is going to be heavily Democratic, like heavily Democratic. We're not expecting to see much, right? Much. We're going to see some Republican vote, but not much compared to what the Democrats are going to get. And some people played it right to the end, right? They were playing strategically. They were voting strategically because they kept hearing these horror stories about 2 Republicans in the governor's election, right? Going into November, 2 Republicans in the general. So they were waiting till the last minute to vote on election day. We were waiting till the last minute on, till election day, so that they could see who was at the top, because they were going to strategically vote by who they thought had which Democrat they thought had the best chance of winning. So a lot of Democrats waited till the last minute. Also, a lot of progressives waited to the last minute because there was a lot of progressive candidates in the governor's election. I don't know if you saw it, but there was like 37. And I'm telling you, it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. It's absolutely ridiculous. The number of candidates that we saw in this governor's election in California, it's ego, right? It's primarily ego. They knew that there was no way that they had a chance, a snowball's chance, and HE double hockey sticks of winning that election, but it was all ego. They could not bring themselves to drop out. And that's how they're not in this to make things better for the rest of the country, to make things better for the people. They are in it for themselves personally, right? Because if they really cared about the people, they would not have had a situation and allowed a situation where we could potentially have 2 Republicans going up against each other in November. There's no way that like, to me, if I wanted to run and if I threw my hat in the ring and I saw, that I wasn't really getting any traction, but like a Tyler Vandenberg was, right? I would say, hey guys, how about we all get behind Tyler, because Tyler seems to have that it factor. Tyler seems to have that thing, and people really relate to him, and people are like, he has that charisma. So let's all, you know, endorse Tyler, throw our weight behind Tyler, and all work to get Tyler elected as a progressive. None of them did that. They were all, every man and woman for themselves. They just did not care. And it bugs the shit out of me. And so me and the team were talking that next primary, next election, which is only going to be in 2 years, guys, right? It comes up very, very quickly. Yes, leadership, right? So that's why we need leadership in the progressive movement though, Tricia. We are very decentralized, right? That's why I believe that Leaders We Deserve is a very good organization. I know it's for young people, but a lot of our candidates are young people, right? A lot of our progressive candidates, the ones who have those, you know, fresh ideas and progressive way of thinking, are the younger candidates. And I think Leaders We Deserve could become the new DNC, right? And definitely could become the progressives version of the DNC. It could be a centralized place where people could donate money, and we would have the same kind of infrastructure and the same kind of power behind us that the DNC candidates do. You know what I'm saying, guys? We need to create better infrastructure for our grassroots, our progressive candidates, especially because they're not taking corporate money and APAC money, right? They're not taking money from Trump's Epstein class. Yeah. Right, Snake Eyes? Right? We got to support our candidates, our progressive candidates who aren't taking money from Trump's Epstein class. Gotta love it. Gotta love it, guys. So yeah, so we're probably not going to see who actually pulls out, right? You know, pulls through, or whatever, you know, whatever phrase you want to use, in the California races until, I would say, probably 4 or 5 days from now. Gotcha, Snake Eyes. Gotcha. Reptilians. Right. Okay, so let's see. So the highest profile race of the day, California, right? Governor. By Wednesday afternoon, it was still too close to call. Republican Steve Hilton was leading the crowded field. People, everything that I've seen about this says that Steve Hilton probably is not going to win. And I mean, just looking at it, guys, I'm telling you, I mean, there's a chance he could eke it out, but they are pretty much saying that they would not, like, people who have looked at these elections, hi Todd, have looked at these elections and have studied these elections for years, have said that you know, they would not want to be Steve Hilton. That they would put money on a Becerra-Steyer matchup for November. That Steyer's going to end up pulling it out because most of the votes that are left are going to be heavily Democratic. And they said, even if it's evenly split, there's so many hundreds of thousands of votes that are still to come, that even if it's like pretty much evenly split between Steyer and Becerra, Steyer's going to have enough votes to get to pull ahead of Hilton. So, so yeah, so there's approximately 58% of the votes that's been called so far, or that's been counted so far in the governor's election, and there are almost 4 million. So I said hundreds of thousands. There's almost 4 million ballots remaining to be counted. 4 million. That's a freaking lot. So Democrat. Yes, I already said that. Tom Steyer. Yes. Okay, so the Los Angeles mayoral election was another race to watch. You have incumbent Democrat Karen Bass, and She already got enough votes. They already called it that she got enough votes that she will be advancing to the general election. So now the race just becomes between Spencer Pratt and Nitya. What is her last name? Anyway, Nitya, I think is the way you say her name. And they're saying that like he had a comfortable lead. But again, if the majority of the votes that are still to come in are heavily Democratic, Nitya could actually pull into that second place spot, right? For her, it's a harder climb. It's a bigger climb. Could you please tell me? Yeah, Katie Porter, it looks like Todd only got about 5% of the vote. I mean, there's a lot more. Like I said, there's about 3,700,000 votes to still be counted, and they expect them to be very heavily Democratic. So she'll get more votes, but as a percentage, she's not really doing that well. Like you would think she would do better because of name recognition and, you know, she was a warrior in Congress, but I don't know. And that's another reason why I feel like Steyer might actually pull into second place, that he's got a really good chance of pulling into second place. Yes. Yep. Jen, I expect her percentage to stay about the same. In New Jersey, we got Senator Cory Booker, right? He ran unopposed. And he's run unopposed since 2013. He is we know he's a potential 2028, contender, that he's been making all the moves that we normally would see for somebody who was planning on running for president. Let's see. So Justin Murphy won the Republican primary in New Jersey. So he's going to face Cory Booker. Cory Booker is going to mop the floor with him. Let's see. Yeah, we don't care. The 7th district, right? We have Rebecca Bennett. Rebecca Bennett used to be a Republican until 2016, I believe. So like that's something. And now people say that she is a centrist, white liberal racist. Okay, got you, James. Got you. You want to come up here and say the N-word, don't you? Got you. I see you. I see you. Like we're here. We're here. I can like tell you MFers like from a mile away. You just it's like you're addicted to it. You're addicted to the idea of saying the N-word. Fucking weirdos. Fucking weirdos. All right, guys. So yeah, Rebecca Bennett. She used to be a Republican. She switched to a Democrat after the 2016 election because of Trump. And she is a centrist. She is going to be going up against incumbent Tom Keene Jr. in November. That Tom Keene Jr. is a Republican. He's the incumbent, but he has not been seen since like the beginning of March. Like dude just disappeared. And when people have asked Republican leadership, like, where's Tom Keene Jr.? Where's your boy? They were like, we don't know. We didn't know he was missing. We didn't know that there was an issue. James, are you in the box? Oh, okay. He left. All right. Okay. So New Mexico, Republican Deb Haaland pulled out a decisive win. Oh no, she's the incumbent. So I thought RAP, I thought they meant Republican. So Representative Deb Haaland pulled out a decisive win in the Democratic primary for New Mexico's open gubernatorial seat. As of Wednesday, she got 72% of the vote over Sam Bregman. Haaland will face off against former Rio Rancho Mayor Greg Hall, who won 47% of the vote in his race against small business owner Doug Turner. If elected, Haaland will become the first Native American woman to govern, to be governor in the U.S. That's big, guys. That's real big. Incumbent Democratic Senator Ben Ray Lujan fought off Democratic Socialist Matt Dodson to claim 84% of the vote. Well, that's not much of a fight if you got 84%. Although no Republican candidate officially ran in the primaries, businessman Larry Marker mounted a successful campaign to appear on the ticket in the general election. Marker took over 4,000 write-in votes Wednesday morning, well ahead of the state threshold of 2531 to qualify for the ballot. So I guess he's, I don't know, going to run as a spoiler? Weird. Or no, because there is no Republican. So, all right, whatever. Obviously, it's a very blue state, and the dude ain't got a chance in HE hockey sticks of doing anything, right? So, what, you know, he's just playing around. Ego, like I said. So, Rob Sand in Iowa, the Democratic state auditor, went unopposed in the gubernatorial primary, while Republican businessman Zach Lon narrowly edged out Randy Feenstra, 38% to 37%. Although Feenstra secured a late endorsement by Trump, it was not enough to carry him through. Meanwhile, Ashley Hinson comfortably won the Republican Senate primary with 74%. Josh Turek, looking to flip the GOP-held seat, secured 62% of the vote to win the Democratic Senate primary. Turek, a Paralympian, is backed by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. So Josh Turek, from what I read, it was the progressive in that race. Even though he's backed by Chuck Schumer, he's considered the progressive, but this is Iowa, so progressive might mean something different there. So now we got Montana's Senate seat, which was left vacant by retiring Republican incumbent Senator Steve Daines. We got a matchup between U.S. Attorney Kurt Almay and Air Force veteran Alani Bankhead, independent candidate and former University of Montana President Seth Bodnar, who has outraised every one of his opponents, will also run in the general election. Almay secured a decisive win in the Republican primary. And let's see, Bankhead's nomination was an unexpected one, largely unknown before announcing her candidacy earlier this year. She held almost 44% of the vote, ahead of the former rep Riley Neals, 33%, who had been the front runner. So this is another one where the progressive won. In Montana's 1st District, Trump-backed Army veteran and talk show host Aaron Flint got the nomination, no surprise there. And then the Democratic race has yet to be called. We got Sam Forstag, who has 38%, and former gubernatorial candidate Ryan Busey trailed 33%. I'm pretty sure Sam Forstag is also the progressive there. So we have a lot of progressives taking elections or about to take elections, in the primaries. Very, very promising results. We can't win them all. A lot of the incumbents won, and they win on name recognition alone, right? It's really hard to unseat an incumbent. The fact that we're able to do it at all is like astounding. This wouldn't be happening just a year ago, just 2 years ago. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. And that's it. Okay. So, and like I said, the California elections, we're not going to know for a few days. Yeah. I can double check for you real quick, Norguy. Let's see. California election results House. Okay. Looks like there's no new stuff for the governor's election. Nothing real new here in the mayor, U.S. House. One, 50% of the votes are in. Okay, so for the District 1, we got James Gallagher and Mike McGuire. They called the election for those two. So they're going to go up against each other in November in the general. And let's see for 2. Number 2. We got Jarrett Huffman, and then the second place winner has not been called yet. I just want to check 6. Because that was Tyler. That's Tyler's. Yeah. It looks like there's still only 48% of the vote in House District 6. So we don't really know much more than we did, but you know, that District 1 was called. So now we have our answer for that one at least. But this is what it's going to be for California, guys, just like a drip, 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 slow drip of, you know, ballots and, you know, ballot counts and results and all that good stuff. So, okay. Well, we spent a lot of time on the elections and I got so much I want to get through too. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is Trump and tariffs. So the Trump administration placed 12.5% tariffs that go into effect next month on goods from nations, it says, has not effectively banned forced labor. Now, I'll pause so you guys can laugh. So the countries on the list include China, India, and Britain. Yes, the UK, Britain, which will all be tariffed at 12.5%. Nations considered to have failed to enforce bans on forced labor will be tariffed at 10%. So, wait. So the administration that has literally spent years fighting labor unions and weakening worker protections and opposing minimum wage and rolling back overtime rules and defending corporate power, they suddenly woke up yesterday and they're deeply concerned now about exploited workers in China and India. That's what we're supposed to believe. Right. Alex gets the joke. All right. So guys, I mean, just it's bonkers, Yari. It's bonkers. So it would be like ExxonMobil like announcing that it was an environmental nonprofit. It's like, yep, we're not going to be an oil company no more. And we're not going to destroy the environment. We're going to be an environmentalist nonprofit organization. What do you think of that? What do you think of that? So to me, this is their way, right? Trump got his hand slapped for doing reciprocal tariffs. The Supreme Court and the International Trade Court said that it was unconstitutional. You can't do that. So then they've been trying to figure out a way that they could put tariffs back on India, China, Britain, right? It's not like they really believe that they're or really care about any kind of like labor force or whatever. Right, Carol. Exactly. Forced labor, you mean the kind where you, go and tear families apart and you put people in concentration camps and you force them to work for $1 a day and then charge them $5 on Saturday to call their family? You mean that kind of forced labor? You mean the kind of forced labor that caused the detainees, the concentration camp detainees at Delaney Hall to go on a hunger strike because they were being forced to work with very little food, and the food that they were given had maggots in it? Like, that's what you're saying, right? Like that kind of labor, that's the kind that you have a problem with, and you're going after the UK, right? That's what you want us to believe. But we know that right now Trump is trying to make deals for all his oligarchs with China, with India, right? He wants cooperation from Europe, right? From NATO, from the UK. So this is how they're getting around it, and to give the Trump sycophants something to talk about, like, oh, look, he cares about forced labor camps. It's just as funny as when they start talking about when they talk about Trump, and they talk about you know, the fact that he went into Venezuela and he went into Israel in order to liberate the people, right? It's the same thing, right? He's liberating the people. That, like, he gives a shit after he sent mass goons into our own streets, right? To pew protesters. But yeah, he cares about liberating people. Like, this is what it's just so preposterous. Yeah. So this is his way of gaining leverage back over China, back over India, so that they will let Elon Musk, you know, do his scams over in China, over in the UK, and sell them Starlink so he can spy on them, and he can, you know, interfere in their affairs and their contests and all that kind of stuff, right? That's really what this is about. That's really what this is about. Trump took a whole force of oligarchs, 25 billionaire CEOs. He took them over to China just 2 weeks ago. And the scuttlebutt is it did not go too well. That China handed them all their hat and told them to get the hell out of here, because we don't have any kind of leverage over China. China has leverage over us, especially when we blew through our strategic reserves of oil, and China did not touch a drop of their strategic reserves of oil. So we are going to run out in mid-July, right? We are going to be, you know, having to scrounge and scrape and try to come up with $10 a gallon or something crazy for the gas we have. We're going to have to ration, like, all this crazy shit. Food prices are going to be astronomical, and China's just going to be sitting pretty. And Trump went over there partly to get these oligarchs to make China deals so that they will release some of their strategic reserves of oil, because he knows the shitstorm that is coming. Yeah, it's really ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The idea that they're trying to sell us, and they really expect us to believe that they all of a sudden care about forced labor in other countries, and that the UK of all places, right, is a problem, a whole ass problem. All righty, let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, the House passed a resolution to end the Iran war. What do we think it means, guys? Do we think that the Iran war is over? Put a 1 in the chat if you think the Iran war is over now that the House passed a resolution to end. The House passed a resolution to end the Iran war. By the way, all the Democrats voted for the resolution, and 4 Republicans. If you wanted to know the vote makeup, it was 2018. I mean 218 to 215. Sorry. So yep, it was 215 to 220. Oh no, 215 to 208. Sorry, 215 to 208. I got too many numbers in my head, guys. It's our estimates review time of year at work, and I have so many freaking numbers in my head right now. It hurts. My brain hurts. So the people who went against the 4 Republicans are Thomas Massey, right? No surprise. Brian Fitzpatrick from PA. He's in a very purple district. Tom Barrett, Michigan, and Warren Davidson in Ohio. I guarantee you those other 2 are also in purple districts. Just leave it, Farah. It's fine. Let's see. Right now, supposed to block Trump from ordering further strikes. Yeah. So yeah, if you guessed that it was not going to do anything and that it doesn't mean a thing, you would be right. You would be absolutely right, because the Senate passed a kind of one, right? A resolution last week that said that Donald Trump couldn't strike around anymore. It did not mean anything. Now the House passed their own version, not the same one the Senate passed. So now the House version has to go to the Senate, and then they'll probably vote on it too, and then Trump will veto it. So there's two things that can happen. So Trump can veto it and just keep doing what he's going to do, which I believe he's going to do. But Trump could sign it, or he wouldn't even have to sign it, really. If he just ignores it, it'll die anyway. So yeah, so I actually believe that he is going to veto it, right? But he could sign it. And you're like asking yourself, why would he sign a thing that curbs his war powers? Because he started a war he doesn't know how to get out of. And so he might do it and then blame it on Republicans and Democrats that they stopped him from finishing the job. And now, right, Steve? Right. Yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Hi.
Hey, Steve. Hey, welcome, friend. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Just getting through some headlines while we're waiting for Aaron Gies to arrive. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the performance? That's what I call it. It's the performance that the Republicans in the House are putting on for us, so that they could try to save some of their seats in these purplish districts.
I think you're right. I was thinking the same thing about the way this will move through the House. I think there's been some negotiations between the White House and the House to do this, so that he has an out.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. Yep.
I do. I think that he does not know how to get out of this, and he does not want to look like he doesn't want to look like a nussy, right? Right? Like he doesn't. Like he's the big strong man, right? And he's playing 5D chess and all this stuff. So if he just backs out and he caves to Iran and gives them, $300,000 and everything, which I still believe he's going to have to give them in order to get them to open the strait, because of all the damage that he's done and because they have him over a barrel. But I think that it's going to give him cover. This resolution is going to give him cover to end the war, give them their $300 billion. Yeah, thank you, Yari. $300 billion in reparations for all the damage that he did. And then he can, walk away and blame Republicans and Democrats. It's all it's all their fault because they wouldn't let him to finish the job.
I don't think the $300 billion will apply, Lisa. I don't think so. I think that's going to be part of the negotiation. I think there'll be a $25 billion release of funds, similar to what Obama did, which was like $400 million in interest plus money owed. I think that number's been thrown around there as part of what the negotiation would be. This would look like $300 billion in reparations. I can't see that happening. I can't see Congress approving that amount of money, quite frankly, for something like that. But I think they'll get $25 billion, and I think that's the play. There's no choice. He's got no choice.
I don't think he has a choice either. Yeah.
Yeah. They need gas prices to come down. They need things to stabilize a little bit. 14 lives lost, plus more injured. I think it's the easiest way out for him.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And so you think that Iran's going to get money? They're just not going to get $300 billion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just can't see how Congress would approve that number. I can't see how that would happen.
Especially not right before the midterms.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how does he blame them when he's the one who signed it? Stace, that his people don't know how things work. He'll blame it on Congress. Congress is the one who passed it, right? And if they were like, yeah, but you're the one who signed it, he'll call him Miss Piggy. Like, do you know, it's like he doesn't care, right? He doesn't care about facts and stuff like that. He'll just say Republicans and Democrats stopped him from finishing the job. That's it. Like, it doesn't, his people don't really care. Stacy, you want to come up, or are you transporting and you're just, hanging? So Stacy is on her way to New York. So I wasn't under the impression he was doing this to appeal to MAGA. What? Ending the war? To appeal to MAGA? Yeah. Well, he will, right? Because he has, gas prices have to come down, or gas prices are about to skyrocket, right? Mr. Global said what? Middle of July. CEO of Exxon said about the middle of July, we're going to see crazy gas price spikes. We're going to see crazy spikes in clothing and food and all these other things. And so he will have to appeal to MAGA in ending the war so those things could come down, because he's going to get blamed for it if he doesn't, right? If he doesn't. And I'm saying, like, to excuse the fact that he backed out when he was supposed to be tough and he was supposed to be finishing the job, and, tough guys don't walk away. His excuse will be that, well, they stopped him, right? He didn't do it. He didn't get scared. He didn't, what do they call him? Chicken taco or whatever. He didn't taco out, right? The Democrats, the left-wing lunatics and the Republicans that are against him stopping them from getting a nuclear weapon, right? You know how he spins and weaves his tails, right? It just,
yeah. I don't think it's got anything to do with supporting his base. It's just about him saving face. I don't think he gives a shit about any of his voters. He never has. I think it's about him saving face.
Yeah, well, that's what. Yeah, saving face. But that's what I'm saying. The only people who are going to ask him why he what is his own vote. Well, not even his own voters. I don't even think that they ask. The only people who really say anything anymore are like the right-wing podcasters, right? Like the what do you call it? Them hodgepodge twins or whatever that turned against him and all that kind of stuff. Like, those kind of people are the only ones who are even questioning anything he does anymore.
That's true. That is true.
They're the ones who are kind of holding the mirror up to him and would say, why did you stop? I thought you had to do this. I thought, blah, 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 blah. Why did you sign this? Oh, you chickened out, another Taco Tuesday and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, oh, well, they stopped me. They stopped me from doing it. Tucker, Candace, Megyn Kelly, right? Hey, Jacob, what's going on?
Hi, I'm just here to join the conversation. What y'all talking about?
So yeah, we were just talking about the House just passed the Iran war resolution or whatever to block Trump from doing any more strikes on Iran. And now it's going to go to the Senate. And Steve and I believe that Trump's going to sign it because he wants an out. He wants an out and doesn't know how to get out of the Iran war.
So you're saying that he's just going to pull us out completely with no resolution with Iran and is going to say they stopped me, right? Like, blame it on Congress instead of himself.
Yeah, but I like Steve said, there's no way that he can just walk away because Iran's not just going to open the Strait of Hormuz just because he stops booming. They already said that they want some kind of recompense for all the damage that he did. And the people that were unalived and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's going to have to give them some kind of compensation. Steve said he doesn't believe that they're going to get 300 billion, but maybe 25 billion.
I could definitely see that. I think they honestly can ask for whatever they want at this point. They have, as Trump likes to say, all the cards. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, they can ask, but it's about what Congress is going to approve. That's my point. There's no way Congress is going to approve that big number.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think so?
No way. Especially if that's the importance of the War Powers Act, because if you stop hostilities, then Congress is not going to be then inclined to open up the checkbook. They can't. They understand the economic conditions. They know how unpopular they are. They know that, you know, they're going to be accused of funding more foreign wars, $300 billion price tag, even though it would go for reparations. There's no way they would approve that. No way. No way.
They're already going to, you know, catch hell given any amount of money, right? When the American people are struggling so bad, the Republicans in Congress are going to catch hell for giving any amount of money, especially in an election year, right? We're like, what, 6 months out or something from the November elections?
Exactly. And they're seeing the tea leaves. You know, I mean, obviously, Trump is not running our government. I think we can all agree on that he is certainly not running the government. So finally, people are like, okay, we're going to have to shift our strategy here, sir. But we'll just blame it on the Republicans. And we'll blame it on the Democrats and the rhinos in the House. They'll identify those people. They'll put up a candidate against him. They'll do the dog and pony, and he can just walk away and claim victory. And that's what this entire thing's about.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like they stopped me. I was going to finish the job. We were winning. We had already won, as a matter of fact. You know, like, you know, it's like he creates his own reality. He weaves his own tale, and he will be the victim again. He will be the victim of, you know, do nothing Democrats, like Steve said, and the rhinos, right? That stopped him from doing what he had to do, what he should have been doing all along. You know, it's just, yeah, he's ridiculous. Okay, so Jacob, we are actually waiting for a congressional candidate to join us. Aaron Gies from New York's 23rd District is coming in for a town hall interview tonight, and I am just checking to see if he's here yet. So, hey TJ, where have you been? Knows bad economy will screw Trump. Yeah, that's true, TJ. TJ is a former, he's a Trump supporter who is done kind of with all that mess.
I have a history with TJ.
Really?
TJ will know. TJ, I don't want to blow your cover, but I know you wanted to be in the throuple, and you had to learn by listening to my live. You're in there every single day. We know where you started, and you've come a long way, TJ. So thank you for finally realizing and seeing the light. You'll know what I'm talking about.
The throuple. That's really interesting. Now I got to know.
Good luck with the interview. So I'll drop down so you guys can get that started.
Okay, thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, good to talk to you.
You too.
Jacob. You're good, man. Jacob is part of a little group that we have. It's called MAGA Hunting, where we all kind of collectively unite and try to debunk some of the BS. And he's great. He's great.
Yeah, you guys do such a good job. I watch you guys sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I can only go for so long.
Depends on the topic, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it really is. Like some of it, sometimes it's painful. Like it's pain. And as somebody like I just like, I know a lot of things. That's why I'm on here, right? I'm just trying to share what I know with people. And it drives me nuts, right? When these people, they're just so ill-informed, and it just, yeah, it makes me feel like I'm going to pull my hair out. I don't have the patience for it. It's like, no, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. That's nowhere near right. So you guys, I don't know. You just got the patience of a saint, Steve, because they just get on my nerves.
I checked on Tyler's results from yesterday.
No.
Yeah, I kind of thought that. I mean, hopefully he decides to run again, because he's exactly the kind of candidate that we want to support going forward. But yesterday was wild in California. I'm going to tell you a brief little story, Lisa. If you saw any of my live today, I talked about the gentleman who runs the elections, or who did run the elections in Shasta County. And I went toe-to-toe with him a couple weeks back and kind of exposed a lot of his BS, and he lost yesterday.
Oh, that guy.
Clint Curtis. Yes.
Clint. Oh, I love that for him.
Yes.
I love that for him. Oh, that's great news. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed, because I'm like, if all you have to do is like listen to Tyler for a couple of minutes, and you're like, yeah, that's who I want. That's exactly who I want.
Yep.
To represent me. And I'm like, I feel like Californians are lazy. I mean, I just hate to say it, but they're like voting on name recognition because they're in a blue state. I feel like they don't feel the urgency that maybe some of the rest of us feel that are in like purple states or in red states, right? And they're just like, oh, well, I voted for, whatever, Pete Aguilar the last 3 times, so I'm just going to vote for him.
Yeah. As we've discussed many times, even on the worst day, Democrats are still significantly better than Republicans that we have. But you're right. That's voter apathy. No doubt about it. Yep.
Yeah. Well, too, also, I was telling the crew when I first came in, Gio, yeah, see, that's what I saw, because when you see numbers like 60% for Ted Lieu and Pete Aguilar, and them too, especially, they're both in leadership. And that's why we interviewed, that's really, Steve, I asked Steve a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, who should we be, concentrating on? Is there anybody in particular we should be talking to? And he said progressives that are challenging leadership, Democratic leadership. And that's why we talked to Tyler, and that's why we talked to, Abel Chavez and Anthony Christodoulou, right? They're all challenging leadership. But yeah, it's like those guys that on name recognition alone, they got tens of thousands of votes, right? Name recognition alone. So it's going to be hard to break through that.
You're in Jersey, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that race, I forget is it Brennan who won on the Democratic side, challenging Tom Keene, the gentleman who's not showed up to Congress in like 3 months?
Yeah. Oh, what's her name? Kate something.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes. Yep. And we were just talking about her earlier. It's my 50-year-old brain's just like kaput. Yeah, but yeah, she's the one who used to be a Republican, before 2016.
Yeah, I was reading a little bit about her past. Really, really moderate Republican, like a Joe Biden Republican, like a real. Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't realize that was as much of a swing district as it is. Yeah. But Tom Keene Jr. has not shown up.
He disappeared.
Yeah, and Mike Johnson went on the record today and said, "Oh, he represents New Jersey's 7th or whatever district it is extremely well. He's a champion for the people." And I'm like, dude, he hasn't shown up to work in 3.5 months. Oh, and on that topic, by the way, where is the president? He's not done a public appearance in a week.
I know some people are starting to wonder what's happening with him. Like, is he sick, or what is it? But yeah, I mean,
that interview was taped. That interview that he did with Laura Trump over the weekend was pre-recorded.
Was it?
I
didn't really watch it. See, that's another thing that you do that is so valuable, Steve, because I can't stand his voice. And you watch all that stuff. You watch all of his interviews. You sit through all those freaking congressional hearings. I don't know how you do it.
I don't sleep. That's how I do it.
You don't sleep. That's so funny because all of the creators I talk to who do this full time say the same thing. They don't sleep.
Well, I have another job that I have to do during the day after I get off my show. I do a bunch of other stuff. Mm-hmm. So I got to try to find some time to sleep because it's catching up to me. But I don't get more than 3 or 4 hours a night in general for the most part. But
Jesus. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely will catch up to you after a while.
It will. And it's graduation season. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on up here. So, yeah, a lot going on.
Guys, do you see Aaron? There was a thing popping up saying invite him, and I did. How is your daughter? She's super excited. I know you said she was looking at schools.
Oh, she's already, we're going to California. She's going to USC in the fall. She's already been accepted. She's already planning on it. She's got, I mean, to say that my daughter currently has senioritis, Lisa, that would be the ultimate understatement. I'm like, you just got to get to next Saturday. Literally, you just got to get there.
Mm-hmm.
After that, you're 18. Your life is yours.
Yeah, we're always so anxious to grow up. So anxious to grow up. Tell her in a couple of years she'll be coming home and she'll be like, You know, can you just take care of me? And this adulting thing's for the birds.
So true. So true.
Yeah, I'm not seeing him. Can somebody go like DM him or message him or something? Do we have his email, Tam? Maybe something came up for him. This would be the first time that we actually had a candidate not show up for an interview.
Happens.
It does happen. It does happen. Okay, yeah, see if you can check, you know what? Check our email. See if we have a message from him.
While you're doing that, a couple of things for your audience to be aware of. Iowa had some interesting results yesterday. There was a Trump-endorsed candidate that lost in the primary. Rob Sands will be going, is a very popular person in that state. So Iowa is in play, not only in the governor's mansion, but also in a Senate seat. So I think that's interesting to watch. I think Texas, I think they're desperate in Texas because of how unpopular Ken Paxton is. There's that situation where Ken Paxton's office negotiated to get a gentleman who was convicted of child SA, like a 6-year-old or in that particular age range over the course of 3 years, a minor child, was sentenced to life in jail without parole, and his office got him off with 29 days and didn't even have to register as a schmexual offender. And that's Ken Paxton. Not only his adultery, not only his fraud, not only his bribery, not only his corruption, but there's that. So I would ask Christians in the state of Texas, are you really, and Republicans, are you going to vote for Ken Paxton over a guy who's in the seminary? James Tallarico, are you really going to do that? Are you really going to do that? I guess we'll see.
Hey, Mr. DJ. Yeah, it's a really good point. You know, what it reminds me of, I don't know if y'all remember this, Steve, I know is going to remember this, but Roy Moore, Alabama, right? It so gives Roy Moore, Alabama, guys. If you don't remember, in Trump's first term, so it was the 2018 midterms, or was it a special election? I know it was during Trump's first term. Roy Moore, literally, right? He was, multiple young women came out and said that he was trying to pick them up in a mall. He was grown, and he was, I believe, the sheriff, right? He was a local sheriff, and he was trying to pick up teenage girls, like 13, 14 years old, up in a mall. And you know, there was like around town. Oh, there you are, Aaron. Yay.
Hey, Lisa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry. I was looking on the main channel instead of your channel.
Oh.
For the live.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Apologies. It's okay. It's okay. So yeah, we were just talking about Roy Moore we were talking about Ken Paxton in Texas, right? And how Ken Paxton, being what he is really giving like the Alabama Roy Moore situation, where Alabama voters voted for Doug Jones, a Democrat, right? Statewide in Alabama. So that's how, and that's what I see happening in Texas when it comes to James Tallarico and Ken Paxton.
You might be right. I hope you are. Certainly a lot of that, and I'm not making this term up, it has been about vice signaling so far. That is showing just how much you're willing to flout social conventions to be big and tough. And, you know, that's the opposite of what Tallarico is about. And I think there are majorities for people that want to live in a society and help their neighbors. So I'm hopeful for that race.
Yeah, I think vice signaling is probably a good term for it. I think I heard that somebody else say that before, and it is what they do. It's like somehow manly or masculine, like they've kind of equated vice with being masculine, and the bigger, you know, the more depraved you can be, the more depraved you can act, the more masculine you are, and the more MAGA you are.
Right.
Like that's, you know, that's what they're doing. But yeah, it's so nice to meet you. My name is Lisa. And I am a federal public servant, so I don't really give out my last name. So I'm just that girl, Lisa. down below me is Steve Faxel-Matter. He is a full-time creator on this app, and he is so kind to, hang out with us and do these interviews with us and bring his people in and his audience in. So we really appreciate him. He always asks the best questions. But to start us off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, education, your occupation, and like why you decided to run for New York 23rd?
Sure. Okay, so my name is Aaron Gies, and I am a Democratic and Working Families candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in New York District 23. So District 23 covers the southwest corner of New York State, everything that's west of Binghamton over to Lake Erie, Jamestown, Corning, Elmira, and then Buffalo suburbs and like a backwards C around Buffalo. So places like Lancaster, Clarence, Hamburg, and Orchard Park, where the Buffalo Bills play, are all in the district. So it's big. It's 6,000 square miles, and it's rural. The biggest municipality is the town of Hamburg, and so a suburb, and that has 60,000 people. The biggest city in the district is actually Jamestown with 30,000 people. In Olean, where I live, I think there's about 5,000 people in the town, 14 in the town and 5,000 in the city. I teach at St. Bonaventure University. I'm a professor there. It's a little bit, I'm a millennial, obviously, and it's a little bit like being on Pee-wee's Playhouse, doing TikTok lives. You never know when you're gonna like.
I know when they start cheering for you and stuff, and put a hat on you and a mustache. Yeah, it does take some getting used to.
So I grew up in a working class family. My parents were not professors. They actually didn't go to college. My dad was and is a contractor. He ran his own carpentry business. And my first job was pounding nails for him. My mom stayed home with us when we were real little, and then she was a school secretary. So, like I said, didn't go to college, and there were 3 of us kids, and they were able to give us a good life, a life where we never worried about what was for dinner, but we didn't fly for vacations either. When the time came, we all got to go to college, which was fantastic. I liked it so much that I just stayed until they made me a professor eventually. I'm very proud of my education, and so are my folks. They worked really hard to get me where I am. I worked 18 years to qualify for my job, and here I am. I just got tenure, and it's time to be on unpaid leave for a year and let all of that slide and see what I can do here running for Congress, because the situation that my neighbors are in, the situation that we're all in down here in New York 23 is really extreme. So, the best way to say why I'm running, I grew up believing that leadership is about the golden rule, treating other people the way you want to be treated. And that's what you should do with power. All the best leaders that I've ever known were that way. They stayed close to the people they were leading and used that power to promote those people's interests. Not just politicians, church leaders, teachers, coaches. But that's not the way things are in Washington now. It's backroom deals and special favors. And what that's really done in a place like this is just hollowed it out. So our rural communities are struggling, losing population, losing jobs, and working families are struggling to pay for the things that they have to pay for. So healthcare, housing, and recently food and gas. So that's why I'm running. It's for these folks who keep working harder and harder, doing everything right, and falling further and further behind. But I'm not in the race because I'm angry or because I want revenge, even though there's plenty to be mad about. I'm sure we'll talk about that, and people to blame for it. I'm in the race because I want to build a future where the government is transparent and accountable, focused on making a good life affordable for everyone. That's what I'm about.
Great. Can you tell us, who is your opponent? What your district is? It is it a Democratic leaning district? Is it purple? Is it red? Who's the incumbent there? Who is your Democratic primary opponent, if you have one?
All right. So let me set the scene. We are R+10 on the Cook Political Report, but our district was redrawn in 2023. So there's not a lot of data to base that judgment on. The demographics are, we've got 27% Democrats, 40% Republicans, and 33% independent and unaffiliated. The incumbent is a guy named Nick Langworthy. So Nick Langworthy, he came up through the party. He's actually never had a real job as an adult. He was the head of the Republican club at his college, and he parlayed that into an internship. And in 2014, he was the Republican state party chair here in New York. And in that capacity, he helped to recruit Donald Trump to run for president.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he's been our congressman for the last 2.5 years. And he's just really been in lockstep with everything Trump wants to do. So he was a co-founder of the Doge Caucus. He voted for the big ugly bill. He said it was a new golden age. He supports the war in Iran. In fact, Lisa, they just had the war powers vote, right? 4 Republicans crossed party lines, voted with the Democrats to bring an end to this.
We were just talking about that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He voted against the resolution.
Of course he did.
So, he loves to talk a big game about peace and about law and order, and that's how he votes. He votes with the president. He's also been he's on the oversight committee, and he's been voted against releasing the Epstein files 3 times until Trump told everybody to flip. But he's continuing the cover up. So, for example, when Pam Bondi did her deposition last week, he was absent. He carefully made sure that he knew nothing about that. So he's not loud on Fox News, but he's a really insidious guy. And, regardless of my partisan feelings about him, the upshot for our district is that we just keep losing jobs. Our mayors don't have a reliable federal partner. People are moving out. And the only thing that he says about all of this stuff is, oh, Albany's so bad, right? It's like his party doesn't control the whole federal government right now. So that's the incumbent. We can talk about the primary. You said you wanted to hear about the primary too?
Yeah, when is your primary? And do you have, how many opponents do you have? What is it shaping up to be? Are you the front runner? Did you get the DNC endorsement? If not, who did? That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Sure. So yes, there are 2 people in the primary. If you look on Ballotpedia, you'll see 4, but 2 of those guys didn't campaign, didn't gather signatures, and aren't on the ballot. So it's me and a guy named Kevin Stocker, who's a lawyer, lives in Kenmore in the city of Buffalo. So endorsements. 5 of the party committees endorsed candidates ahead of the primary. They all endorsed me, and that includes Cattaraugus, where I live, and Erie County, where almost half of the electorate lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Buffalo suburb county. So we got those party endorsements. That put a lot of wind in our sails, and we had 300 volunteers working for us directly, plus party committee folks. And that meant we were able to gather 6.5 times the ballot signatures that we needed for ballot access.
Wow.
So we needed 1,250 and we got
Very good.
200 and change. I've been told that's a pretty high watermark for a candidate in this district recently, for a challenger. We also were able to get the Working Families ballot line. We got nominated or endorsed by the Working Families Party, but actually getting the lines, you probably know, is really hard because in rural areas, the members are all spread out. And so for every signature, you might have to drive 20 minutes. And you've got to have a Working Families Party member to witness the signature too, or a notary public. So we actually were able to overshoot that target by 50%. So we had a lot of support there as well. Since then, some unions have come on board, and some citizen groups. So Citizen Action has endorsed. A couple of like local community PACs have endorsed, and then NICET, the Teachers Union, and the Communication Workers of America, which are some of the larger unions in the area that deal with education and healthcare. Very important to the common good. And they also work hard. Those folks will show up and knock on doors, which is what we're hoping for. So to compare briefly to my opponent, Kevin hasn't gained any party endorsements, or any endorsements. 21 people witnessed for him, including himself. He gathered 500 of his 1,800 signatures himself. That's really impressive for one guy to gather all those signatures. He was doing it after work every day. He's still working. But, the thing that I would point out is, that's not enough. You can't be a one-man band and expect to flip a big rural district like this. Yes, you got to work really hard, and I believe I did as well. But you need an army. It's really going to take a crowd of us, not just a few people that are willing to knock on doors and self-fund, which is what he's doing. He hasn't really raised any money either. So that's where we are.
That's where we are. Okay, Steve.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, Aaron. Neighbor to the east. I'm in Vermont, far away, obviously. I heard that you represent the district that surrounds Buffalo, where the Bills play. As a Patriots fan, I will ignore that for the duration of this interview. I have no problem doing that. I'm on your website and I'm looking at your policy platforms. And I think one thing that I've noticed that is missing from a lot of, especially new people in the political space, is the passion for the things that you care about. I think we've crossed this sort of lexicon of it's easy to go after our opposition because they're easy targets. Right. But I think for people want to know that they have a champion for things. We've got to change the mindset of voters to be voting against something and voting for something. So I would like to hear your passion, specifically your passion about why you advocate for powering up public schools.
Oh, sure. So the campaign is, as you'll see if you're on my website, it's focused around the concept of the common good. And maybe the best example of how the common good works is public education. So the founders didn't think that we could have a democracy without it. I think they were right. That's always been a promise that we make to each other. So just how that works out, if we have well-funded and well-staffed public schools where anybody can get a good education in a given community, that means that my kids get access to a good education. And yours do too. Even if you vote differently than me, even if you look different than me, even if you don't like me, this is another thing that we have to negotiate living in a community together. We still share that common good. And even if you don't have kids, you still benefit because you live in a community with a well-educated citizenry, right? So the common good works like that. And the government does all kinds of things that belong to the common good, because the basic purpose of government is to be a way for us to cooperate to do the things that we can't do for ourselves. So when that common good is attended to, our good expands exponentially, not linearly. So the benefits of somebody having a good, free public education, they spread like ripples in water, not like multiplying, 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. So I think every conversation in government should run like that. If we're talking about infrastructure, for example, it should be a conversation about the common good, right? How do we control cost? How do we provide access to everyone, not just necessarily the first people that we think of, because they're the most like we are. And when we do that, we come up with designs that end up helping ourselves by helping others. That's how the common good works. So yes, I'm passionate about that in education, that like the power of expanding good by giving access. I'm also passionate about, quality. I am an educator myself. I have taught in public schools as a substitute teacher a long time ago. And now as a college professor, of course, like I receive the end product of our New York public schools and lots of other kinds of schools. So quality matters. I believe that the best way for us to ensure quality is to fund adequately. And I'm not just talking about teacher salaries. New York does a lot better than many states, but there are still places where we could fix. There's a conversation about tier 6, fixing tier 6. We're not paying everybody as well as they deserve. There's also a conversation about making sure that we're feeding kids, that we're budgeting to feed kids in school. The biggest cause of learning loss is hunger. So we need to make sure there's funding for that. That's also an opportunity for us to support local farms and the local food system. So again, these are other ways in which the common good expands, right? It's people think of the government as a black box that we pay our tax dollars into and then we never see them again. And that's unfortunately all true in many cases, because we've gotten used to this idea in American politics that the government exists to subsidize the largest companies and the richest individuals. And we just have to hope that they'll decide to make life better for us down the line somewhere, maybe by creating some crappy job that we can do. But what government really exists for is to help us invest in each other. And there's no better example of that than public education.
I appreciate that. I guess what I'm looking for is, that's a complicated message, Aaron. And we've got to be able to convince voters, especially in a district that's represented by a Republican in a +10 district, that they've cut funding to the Department of Education. I think people don't understand what the DOE does and the impact that it has on public schools. So how do we synthesize what you said into easily consumable, easily understood, the importance of education? Teachers having to create their own Amazon wish lists to be able to supply their classrooms. Kids coming to school hungry. But teachers grossly underpaid. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, that's the passion that I'm looking for, because you can probably tell I'm raised by a teacher. I mean, I've been around them my entire lives. I'm a major advocate for public education. As a child of public education, as a public education student, I guess that's kind of what I'm looking for. So when we talk about it in terms of trying to convince voters to support you, are you fighting for teachers, public schools, curriculum expansion, whether it be, critical thinking curriculums, media literacy, things like that? That's the passion that I'm looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And yeah, I would say I'm fighting for teachers and for kids, and for small rural communities, especially, where the school is often the center of the community, as well as the center of is what you did there. Although, it was general, but stories, not just like, here's my concept of how the common good works, but here's a teacher that I know that doesn't have what she needs for her first grade classroom. It was an Amazon wish list, right? Here's a student who has a GoFundMe because their healthcare is inadequate and it's affecting their schoolwork, but their classmates are supporting them. These are ways to make it practical for people, for sure.
Thank you.
So what is your view on healthcare and what we need to do as far as, the ACA, universal healthcare? Like what is your vision for how we tackle our healthcare system?
Yeah, so I start from the premise that I think we all agree here in this district and probably across the country that nobody should die because they're poor or live in a rural area. And healthcare affordability and healthcare access are things that Americans agree on. It's just that conservatives have generally believed, at least historically, that the markets are the best way to assure those things. And I think that, Lisa, we're at a place because of the big, beautiful bill and Trump's 11 years now of concepts of a plan and trying to destroy the ACA, that a lot of our conservative neighbors understand that markets aren't working so well for healthcare. That's particularly true in our district. The big, beautiful bill is likely to close 8 out of 12 of our hospitals, according to an FPI study. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, will put a crushing weight on the urban hospitals that will see all that overflow. And it'll create huge deserts for maternity care and for nursing care. We're seeing nursing homes close. We just had our 5th close since 2024 inside the district. So all of that's very serious. And I think that, regardless of where you sit politically, you see it. You see that there's a problem that needs to be solved. My contention is that everybody deserves a doctor. And I think the best and also cheapest way to provide that is with universal single-payer healthcare. Now, I don't love the Sanders-Jayapal Medicare for All bill for a kind of a quibbly reason, but let's talk about it, since I'm sure you talk about this with everybody you have on.
Yeah, we do. Mm-hmm.
So it says right there at the beginning of the bill that the system will be administered by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, who's currently Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So I certainly wouldn't want to put the nation's healthcare entirely in his hands. He has way too much influence over our health and safety right now. But it points to a problem, a potential problem in the future, and that is that our brand new, national healthcare system, if you will, could be a political football. So I would like to do the best that we can to protect it from political pressure. I think some kind of jointly appointed commission on the model of the Federal Election Commission or the Federal Reserve Board, something
independent. You're saying something that's independent from and has a Chinese wall up or whatever, where the president can't fire them, or so this doesn't happen again in case somebody like Trump gets in again. Hey, John, how are you?
You understand, Aaron, though, the reason that the Medicare for All model is designed to be administered by the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You understand why, though, right? Do you know why?
Well, no. Tell me why.
It's because it's a Medicare for All program, and that's where Medicare sits in our system.
Sure.
So it sits under the purview of the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Now, we can use the extreme nature of RFK, and I agree with you on that point. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to. I think the problem that we have now trying to sell Medicare to all to the American people is because of bureaucracy. And I understand what you're saying about how it's administered, but to introduce more bureaucracy to people who are already opposed to it ideologically, I don't think that's a winning argument.
I mean, it could be a problem. And I appreciate what the motivation there, which I think is just do the next good thing you can do, do the most good you can, given the situation that you're placed in. And I favor incremental steps like, for example, reducing the eligibility age for Medicare, moving incrementally towards universal coverage. Yeah, I don't know.
Again, it's complicated. Lisa and I have had this conversation before, and as somebody who's worked on 2 of Bernie's campaigns, and I am an advocate, 10 toes down advocate for the model of Medicare for all, because I've seen the cost savings. So, and I would encourage people, if they're talking about it, like if you are opposed to it, then own it and own it. You don't have to dance your way into why you want to perhaps be critical of it. And I think that's reasonable, but I think we have to flip the script and talk about it from a cost savings perspective, because everybody likes to hold the price tag as to what it would cost without understanding that we are in a system now that we're going to spend $7 trillion annually by the end of next year on our healthcare, 18% of our GDP, in a $2.5 trillion profit industry. And we still don't insure half of our country. So that's where I'd like to hear your how you would sell that, whether it be Medicare for all or a universal healthcare model. How would you sell that to your voters?
Sure. So Nick Langworthy has been back in the summer when he was trying to sell the big ugly bill. He was attacking Medicare fraud. And as you probably know, the Medicare fraud rate is super small. It's like a fraction of a percent. Mm-hmm. Most of the fraud are like cost overruns for after somebody dies, right? And then that money gets paid back. Whereas the rate of fraudulent claims in the private insurance company, I haven't looked at these figures since last summer, but it approaches 20%. People simply try to make claims for stuff that isn't covered in their plans, and sometimes they get away with it. So this is the thing. People think that government is wasteful and inefficient, and it can be when there's no oversight, there's no scrutiny. But the private sector exists to make money. That is its purpose. Its purpose isn't to keep people alive. It isn't to extend their lives. It is to make money. And there will always be large numbers of people who are willing to cut corners or to tell lies to make money. So I think a system where the incentive the goal is explicitly to heal, to extend human life, and that's the whole mission, could save us a lot of money. And of course, like you're aware that you cut all kinds of things out structurally of the healthcare system that are redundant, that don't need to be there if you have a universal single payer.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Steve. When Steve first said that we need to stop giving them an opening for, well, how are you going to pay for it? Right? And that gotcha that they've been using to ensure that we don't have universal health care. And you can do that by selling it as a cost-saving measure, not just this is going to be better for everybody's health, but we're actually going to save money, thousands of dollars. Like I think that it was something like $12,000 per person per year. On average is what the cost savings is, compared to private insurance. I can tell you my private insurance, and as somebody who has probably one of the best insurance policies on the planet, it's absolutely outrageous. They keep increasing the premium. They keep reducing what is covered, keep increasing what my out-of-pocket costs are, right? And this is the private system. They would not be able to do that, right? We would save thousands of dollars. And, I would, as Steve talks about, right? Think about that. Like, think about the micro and macro implications of each person saving about $12,000 a year on medical costs. That money would be in their pockets. That money would go into the local community, into the small businesses, right? And the mom and pop stores and the medium-sized businesses, and trickle up, right? It would actually be trickle up economics, and it would actually boost the economy, unlike any kind of stimulus or any kind of tax cut ever could.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a great point. And turning it around on them and saying, how are we going to pay for this? In fact, we're not paying for this, right? It's an enormous drag on our economy is a great idea. I mean, another thing that occurs to me, you know, sitting here in a rural area, and Steve, I don't know how rural your home in Vermont is, but
it's Vermont, Aaron.
Yeah, it's rural. So like, you know, we moved here to Olean from like a state capital. We moved from Columbia, South Carolina directly years ago. And, you know, there's everything in a state capital. You know, you want to go to a trampoline gym on Tuesday night? Fine, you know? And so you get up here and you go, where's the nearest trampoline gym? Oh, it's 70 miles away, right? So you're not going to just like use it for daycare after school. That's how medical care works in a for-profit system. Where's the nearest, you know, orthopedic surgeon? They're 70 miles away or 120 miles away. And the more we vacuum government money out of the system and force people to pay full freight for their care, the further away those things will be. They'll in fact retreat just to the largest cities where everything is available and everything can be had. And elsewhere, we simply won't have any of those things. In fact, we won't even be able to hold on to the capacity to, you know, deliver babies, deliver care for heart attacks, and, you know, do the kinds of things that we just have to do to make a place livable for folks, which will in turn affect our ability to do everything else. Right over the line in Pennsylvania, we just had our hospital, Bradford Regional, shut down. They still have some outpatient services, but they don't have any inpatient beds and no ER. So all those people are now coming over to Olean. Who would move to Bradford for a job now if they didn't have to? Knowing that you're going to have to drive 30 minutes and wait 8 to 10 hours to be seen at the ER. Like, why would you do that? So delivering healthcare is a way to lower our costs. It's the moral thing to do, but it also kind of is a basic infrastructure requirement for allowing our economy to grow in all the other ways it needs to grow, all the other ways. So that's an important thing that I think about as I talk about this with rural folks.
Yeah, I mean, it's a compelling argument. We know that because of cuts in the OBVA, that rural hospitals are losing funding, therefore they're closing. And I think to what you just brought up, it's a message that should resonate. It's not resonating. That's kind of my point. That's where I'm asking about where that passion comes from. If I could just shift gears just a little bit, there's a lot of churn in Congress right now about leadership or lack thereof coming from the Democratic side. What is your opinion of Democratic leadership in the House and the Senate currently?
So, I mean, as you know, the senior leadership of the House and the Senate are part of the New York congressional delegation. So these are folks that we're dealing with, you know, directly as a campaign. So I would say two things. The first is I think that I've seen things that frustrate me from the House and Senate leadership, but I've also seen things that I was impressed by. We won the healthcare shutdown, and we won the DHS shutdown. It was a big risk. Schumer and Jeffries did it. They did much more than send strongly worded letters. They shut the whole damn government down for an important reason, and the American people understood why they did it, and they blamed the Republicans, who are in fact to blame. So I think that was strong. There are other ways in which their leadership hasn't maybe met the moment. And I think that you are seeing a crop of Democrats running as challengers all across the country right now. Actually, you guys know this way better than I do because you're talking to these people right now all the time, who want to see not a return to the way things were before Trump, and not any sort of attempt to protect the kind of corporatist neoliberal status quo, but an attempt to build something new that works for everyone, that is based on people investing in each other and not in subsidizing the largest corporations in the hopes that they will help us. And I think that we will have a robust discussion next January about whether this is the right leadership to move us forward into that place.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Danny, welcome to the panel. You got a question for Aaron here?
Hi, Aaron. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for having me up. What's up, Steve? How you doing? So
Hi,
can you, hey, friend. So you said that you believed that when it came to the healthcare subsidies and the ICE funding, that it was a win. Can you share with me what you felt like made it a win?
Yeah.
Because what I heard you say was that it was a win because people understood why we did it. People understood that the government got shut down, and people blamed Republicans. And so, those the defining mechanisms for determining that it was a win? I'm just interested in the choice of wording.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe that's strong wording given the fact that, they did take away ACA subsidies, and they had already funded ICE and CBP. So, that shutdown didn't take away ICE's funding or abolish ICE or anything like that. But no, I mean, it's a messaging win. What they did was give us all a strong case to make to voters as we head into these midterm elections, that the Republicans are responsible for some of the scariest and toughest circumstances in working people's lives right now. And that was important work to do. And if they had done nothing, if they had not shut the government down, because they didn't have the votes to actually stop these things, if they hadn't shut the government down, then there would have been a power vacuum where the Republicans would have just been able to whine about no tax on tips and overtime and blame criminal illegals, and there wouldn't have been a strong counter narrative. Because of what they did, there is, and I think that's a good thing.
Okay. I hear you. Would it be fair to say that there's caution as a candidate running with the Dems and Democratic leadership being part of the New York Democratic Party leadership? Would it be fair to say that there's a caution in terms of criticism of leadership and what has or hasn't gotten accomplished? Would that be fair? Because like when you prefaced your response to Steve's question, I noticed what you said is that, obviously that the leadership of the Democratic Party is part of the leadership of the New York Democratic Party. And so that as a campaign, you work with them quite a bit. And so just hearing that made me go, okay, so establishing that connection, does that also put you in a position as a campaign to be careful about criticism of the party and its leadership as a candidate?
And that's why I asked Aaron, just to follow up. That was when I saw Danny. That's exactly the reason why I asked that question.
I thought so. And so I just thought I would do the follow up and ask. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, in order to win power, you have to build coalitions. And, as an insurgent candidate, from a poor district, I have some choices about who to build coalitions with, fewer choices than, powerful senators do, right?
Mm-hmm.
The choices that I've made, include who I will or will not take money from, whose endorsement I seek, and whose endorsement I don't necessarily seek. And maybe most importantly, the things that I choose to run on, the things that I let everyone else know, who's a potential colleague. Like if I'm elected, this is what I'll be pushing for in the next Congress. So, those are good ways to find out, what my priorities are, the ways that I would choose to lead.
Gotcha. Do you think that, because I am on the apps and across the country quite a bit, talking to people a lot. Do you think that the vast majority of Americans feel like we have that we have the time, that we can be overly concerned about building coalitions? Because I think that it's that framing, right? That we have to make sure in the Democratic Party that we keep certain people on board. And I think many progressives are like, we're over that shit, because the people that are holding that power, right? The people that are holding that power, because they are what many people would describe as establishment Dems. People are kind of tired of them because they perform. People don't really want a messaging win anymore if people still can't go to the doctor, and people don't care about a messaging win if the outcome is still the same. Like I look at Cory Booker's filibuster performance, and at the time, the only thing that made me happy about it was that he was able to get things on the record. But literally, Cory knew that OBB was coming, like literally a week and a half later. Dude, if you're going to hold your pee, can we do it for something of substance? Can we do it, for something for the American people rather than just grandstanding and reading out of books? And I feel like people are tired of performative, and people want a solid path forward. So, having said that, and I don't mean to ramble because I just popped in. I haven't heard a lot of you all's conversation, so forgive me if I'm just kind of all over the place.
No, you're right, Danny. I mean, we are. I don't know how many interviews you've done yet, Aaron, and how many people you've talked to. I've seen that you've done some events, and New York is different. I'm from New Jersey. Danny's from the South. Steve's from Vermont, obviously. But we are exhausted. We are so, and excuse my language, but we are so done with this bullshit, like this performative bullshit. I mean, we're talking about Hakeem Jeffries, who after the 2024 election ran to Silicon Valley and begged them not to abandon the Democratic Party when it comes to donations, right? We're talking about, Chuck Schumer, who, holds hands with AIPAC and ensures the Democratic Party doesn't abandon AIPAC. And for somebody who doesn't take AIPAC money and corporate money and understands that, the need for us to feel like you are representing us, because even though you're New York 23rd, you are going to be in Congress, which means you are going to be making decisions that will affect all of us. So in a way, you're representing us all. And I want to feel like you understand the assignment, right? That you understand that you are representing us. You're not representing, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and their interests. And I can tell you, I don't care how many endorsements you got from the DNC, the Democratic Party. Our priorities do not align with their priorities when it comes to establishment Democrats. They just do not.
Maybe said in a different way, Aaron. It's like what I'm looking for is like, what do you stand for, not who do you stand with?
Yeah.
And
Steve.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of, I wasn't trying to set you up when I asked that question, but I know where you're from. I know I did some research on you, and I know that obviously money is required to run for office. But that's why initially when I asked you, like, tell me the things that you're passionate about. Tell me the things that you stand for, because we've all been doing this long enough to know that the leadership in the Democratic Party is not popular. It's just not popular. We've got to be able to say that. And if you want to stand for things, then that might require some uncomfortable conversations. So that's why I mentioned it. That's why I brought it up the way that I did.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks. I hear where you guys are coming from, and yes, I'm aware of the popularity of the leadership.
I think they're like $14 million in the hole, I think, the last time I looked.
Yeah.
In
So
debt.
I'm with you, and I share your exhaustion. And you know what? Like, my neighbors do too, and I'm not just talking about my progressive neighbors. The whole reason that we got Trump is because Trump started his campaign by saying something that's true. You're all getting screwed. He continues to say that, and he just is openly participating in the problem now. But conservatives get that. They get that the system is rigged, and the establishment democratic idea that what we need to do is somehow like fix what we have, get back to like a pre-Trump like status. It's unacceptable to anybody, I think, across the political spectrum. I think once you get out of DC, nobody agrees with you that is how things should be. So this is why I have turned down AIPAC money, why I won't take money from fossil fuels or guns or crypto or data centers or insurance companies, because these interests are tearing America apart by using their money to pay off politicians to get what they want. And Democratic politicians that are complicit in that system are keeping us from getting the change we need. They're, in fact, endangering the existence of our democracy. I think the crisis of our democracy is basically an inequality problem. It's a problem that results from the fact that some people in our society have gotten so much money that they can escape consequences and buy votes. And they're using that power, right? Particularly the AI companies and the crypto companies, but tobacco and fossil fuels and guns, they've been doing this forever. And both sides have helped them. And if we're going to break that connection, it takes a grassroots movement, which I think all you guys are aware of, right? It takes everybody working together. It takes money, as Steve was saying. We got to get it the right way. We got to get it from crowds. We got to get it from community groups, from advocacy groups. And it takes political will. And that is a big hope that I have for this election, that there are a lot of folks out there who are similarly saying no to the way that things are usually done. And buying themselves that political capital to make real change. And, unfortunately, some folks are having tens of millions of dollars dumped on their race by these bad actors in our system. There are folks in, what's his name? Is it Foley in NYC, who's been loud about AI and crypto's dumped, $10 million on him to try to sink his candidacy. I've been very loud about data centers. So, in rural New York.
Sorry, Lise girl, that was me showing you love.
Okay.
You said the secret
That's
word.
me all the time.
Yeah. In rural New York, this is the sort of place that big tech companies feel like they can dump a hyperscale data center and nobody will say anything about it or do anything about it. And establishment Dems have kind of given them a pass. Like the governor hasn't been loud enough. I haven't seen the senators making noise about it. And of course, Nick Langworthy's all fine with it. Claudia Tenney next door in New York 24, she's fine with it. These MAGA Republicans, because they expect, to get a cut on the back end. But these things are disastrous for our district. They're environmentally destructive. They consume enormous amounts of public subsidy. They drive up everybody's electricity costs. They pollute our water. They slash biodiversity, and they don't bring any jobs in return for all of these enormous
Aaron,
social costs.
this is what we're talking about.
There's
right?
that passion, Aaron.
There's
There
the
you
passion
go.
we were looking for. We found it. It's data centers.
You guys, I'm passionate about a lot of stuff, but I'm a pretty kind of person.
Yeah.
I know. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Go ahead, Danny.
I am passionate about it. Like, they're trying to build one. You're not going to believe this. So, or maybe you will. I don't know who you've been talking to. They're trying to build one in Genesee County, which is out of our district, but it's a hyperscale data center. It has a constant power draw of 500 megawatts, which is about the same power draw as Metro Buffalo, all the time. It's a $19 billion investment. They've asked for $1.4 billion in public subsidy. Half that comes from the state and half comes from Genesee County, which is not a large, rich, urban county. It's very rural. It is right next door to the Tonawanda-Seneca Reservation. It's in a very sensitive wetland area. It is right next door to a nature preserve. And it's connected to, some of our most important reserves of fresh water in the Great Lakes. This monstrosity that is asking for $1.4 billion in public subsidy is projected to provide 60 on-site jobs.
Yeah, I mean that's
like
we're seeing that all over the. But if we could, I want to make sure that we get your answer on like the leadership and the way that you are working with the DNC. And like I said, trust me, I understand. Like, we have talked to a lot of grassroots candidates who did not get the endorsement of the DNC, and they have seen a very different experience from the DNC. Who wanted them to drop out of the races, who tried to spend money to make sure that they did not succeed in their race, because they had their candidate that they wanted to win and stuff like that. So I understand that the tightrope that you walk when you have the endorsement and you're trying to and you're trying not to, upset them or whatever. But I really I want to get from you if you understand that the Democratic base, the voters, really don't want Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer to be in leadership anymore. And I don't know if other people have been telling you that, like when you talk to them, but I can tell you that the people that we have that we have heard from, do not, like, in any way, shape, or form, because we believe that they do not meet the moment and they are too embedded in corporations and in big business and in special interests. Like, they have lost their way, and in a way that I don't think they can come back from it.
Okay, Lisa.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Danny. You have something to add?
No, go ahead, okay. and then I do have a follow up.
Yeah. All right. So I think you guys might have the wrong idea. Okay. And let me make a few points here. Mm-hmm. I am not endorsed by the DNC. I have not been endorsed by the state party. I've been endorsed by a number of county parties. New York 23 has historically been a very underinvested in district so far as the DNC and the DCCC are concerned. It's been written off for over 20 years. Okay. So I will win my primary. I will be the Democratic nominee for Congress in New York 23. This moment requires that we decouple from corporate interests and reinvest in our neighbors. It requires that we disentangle American interests from the interests of a foreign government and its lobbyists, which is what AIPAC is, and take care of America, okay? Take care of our own communities. It requires leadership that is not trying to return to the way the world was 12 years ago, but build something that is better and new and works for everyone. I think that actually most of my conservative neighbors who are required for me to win in this district agree with those points, okay? So I agree with you that meeting the moment requires something new, all right? Okay, I think I've said what I needed to say there. Danny, what would you like to say?
Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, so I think going back to like when we were first talking about it, and we were talking about, not taking PAC money and not taking APAC money, and I hear everybody on that front, right? APAC is an issue, so is NORPAC, so is J Street, so is Kofi, right? And whether they do it directly through the PAC or through the rich people donating the money directly and not through the PAC itself, you end up kind of with the same result. I think one of the things so let me ask you a question. So for New York Congressional District 23, do you know about how many of your children and adults in that region are going to lose their Medicaid funding because of the One Big Beautiful Bill?
Oh, so I think the number is in the 14,000 range. But that's just direct, right? So many
that's
more.
26. It's actually 26 direct. It's 26,000. And then your SNAP numbers are 19,000 for your children and your adults. And then because of the ACA premium tax credit subsidies that expired, it's an additional 24,000 that will become uninsured because they can't afford their premiums. Right. And so one of the things that I think progressive candidates would be good to do is when we're talking to people is to know the impact of what's happening based on what's been done. So one of the things that I've been communicating with people is 1 year from now, if we get a Democratic majority in the House and in the Senate in November, a year from now, we could literally be using budget reconciliation to put back everything that we lost 1 year ago. And I don't hear a single damn Democratic candidate telling the American people that. I don't hear anybody saying they used a mechanism called budget reconciliation to strip these things away, to fund ICE. We can use that exact same mechanism to put these funds back. And so I go, well, why isn't the Democratic Party saying that? Because for God's sake, I know they know. Hell, they've been in Congress since, I gave birth to my first child. I know they know. So why is that the messaging? And is it not the messaging because it's not something that they intend to do, that they don't have any desire to do? We talk about rural. I'm from rural Northeast Tennessee. What I find in rural places, especially in places like upstate New York, you will find people that are conservative individuals who absolutely would hands down fight you over a data center. But it's not really because they give a fuck about the environment. It's because the environment is how they generate revenue, right? It's their tourism industry. It's their, it's where people come and it's how they make money, right? And so I think the place where I'm at, and maybe it's a little bit different because I spend a lot of time thinking about not just where we are. I really don't care about Trump. I really don't care about a whole lot of other things. I care about how do we fix the problems where we are. And I think the biggest issue that we have right now is Congress. So let me ask you this. Are you familiar with the bill passed in Hawaii, SB 2471? It's the limitations of powers of artificial persons.
Yes. Well, no, but I have heard of it, right? So I've looked at headlines about it. Yeah, I mean, promising. There's a lot that can be done at the state level.
Yeah, I think, and so I think that for me, what I hear people saying all the time is, what can we do that has parallel paths, right? That have to be happening at the same time.
Yes.
And so this is the opinion that I'm of. I think people know the talking points now, right? I think it would be very hard to find an establishment Democrat that's going to brag about taking APAC money, right? Unless they are just ready to fucking retire. Like, I just don't. Everybody knows the talking points at this time. Either get on board or get out. And they've got about 2 years to figure that out because they are absolutely on their way out the door. And so now for me, if I had heard people say I'm not taking APAC money 18 months ago, I'd have been, hell yeah, look at this. They're out in front. Like, they've got it. They are leading the path. These are the future. Right now, everybody that's regurgitating that message has simply caught on that if they have a hope in hell of getting elected anywhere, they've got to be able to tell people those things. And I think what most people want to know is what are the tangibles? So what I would look at is, if I could get from you, your top 2 tangibles. So what are the top 2 things that you would like to see done and that you would advocate for in healthcare, in education, in housing, and in economic mobility, in Congress? And what would those top 2 things be? And what would be your time frame in terms of getting them done?
Healthcare, housing, economic mobility.
Yeah, I call it he, just so everybody remembers. It's healthcare, education, housing, economic mobility. And then I tell people it's not a laughing matter. He. Got it? Yeah, so it sticks.
Are you looking for 2 points or 8 points?
You can give me 2 from each of those categories. So 8 together, 8 total.
Right. So we're still working on policy. So I am going to give you talking points, Danny. I'm sorry.
No, I apologize.
That's where we are right now. So in terms of healthcare, we need to restore the ACA subsidies. That would be priority 1 if we get back into Congress. The reason for that is not because they're working great. It's because we're facing the loss of a huge portion of our healthcare infrastructure if we don't do something to stabilize it. So that would be priority 1. Priority 2 would be to work on deep structural reform, a kind of a universal single payer healthcare. Obviously we probably need a Democratic president to do that, but that's where we need to go. If we're forced to do something incremental, I would certainly fight for lowering the Medicare age of eligibility. In terms of housing, I favor like supply side solutions to the problem as opposed to finance side solutions to the problem. So the 2 things that I would like to see done nationwide are abolition of parking minimums and next level of density by right. So if you're in an R1 neighborhood, you should be able to divide your house into a duplex or build an ADU by right instead of applying for zoning variance. And if you're in a neighborhood with small apartments, you should be able to build like the next increment of density. We need to legalize building basic housing and building in our urban areas. Again, it's very important. We're out of green fields. We're out of kind of housing that's easy for people to afford, like we saw in the 70s and 80s. In terms of, oh yeah, good point. Sorry. My wife's been reminding me of what my policy platform is. Something that I often forget to mention with regard to healthcare is we really need to push marijuana descheduling. And this isn't for like giggly reasons. It's because it is a key to solving the opioid crisis. Cannabinoids have really promising properties for pain relief and for doing other things that folks that are struggling, for example, with PTSD or chronic pain really need. And we can't even do research on cannabinoids right now because they're Schedule 1, the most dangerous class of substances. So Biden started this. Trump has not interfered with the process and taken credit for it. That's a good sign. Congress should do whatever it can to get that done because, we need to get our rural communities back on their feet. They're still reeling from the opioid crisis. All right. So moving on to economic mobility. Okay. So I support a livable wage. The federal minimum wage should be raised to $15 an hour immediately. It's unconscionable that it hasn't been moved since the 90s. The last time the federal minimum wage changed, I was making minimum wage. And we need to raise it to at least $1,750 by 2030. I think that's becoming too low a target, though, because of the inflation that we've seen lately. So another thing that I would like to see is something that the Biden administration was trying hard to do, which is not the across the board cancellation of student debt, but the expansion and simplification of programs to forgive student loans for people working in high need areas, and making trade schools and community college free of charge. Those are big social programs. At least the free trade school and community college thing is big, but I think it's worth trying for. We have great big deficits in many of these career fields, and at the same time, we've got a whole generation of students who are facing a really tough job market that looks like it's going to get tougher. My students last semester, as we were getting ready to graduate, I knew that a number of them were struggling to find jobs. So it's something that people understand that we need to do something about. Another thing to mention with economic mobility, and this really affects education as well, and we're going to talk about that, is we need common sense guardrails on AI. Congress has got to regulate AI. It's unacceptable that this Congress hasn't done anything about it. It's a problem that needed to be addressed years ago. But just to speak to that, AI should not be allowed to replace human beings, either as teachers or as learners, either in public school or in higher education. And the ways in which AI is able to make decisions in place of human beings, for example, in practicing medicine, making diagnoses and treatment recommendations, or in killing human beings on the battlefield or places that are adjacent to battlefields. These are things where the government needs to have a voice, and it's frankly a shame that the United States, rather than convening some kind of international commission through the UN to talk about this and having a very serious discussion, is doing nothing, while the only person internationally talking about this in a way that people are listening to is the Pope. All right, so I think those are some pretty good short lists.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. I think that was pretty thorough. Steve.
So great, and thanks for unpacking that. I'd like to kind of shift gears into maybe a little bit more rapid fire, if possible, because we've talked about a lot of things, and
I think talk for a minute and 30 seconds at a time.
No, I'm the same way. I have to watch myself, so I appreciate that. So one of the things that I don't hear enough conversation, I didn't see it anywhere in your policy platform, would be addressing the number one cause of death for children in our country, which is gun violence. Would you advocate for, and we don't need an answer, this is just a real simple question, would you advocate for universal background checks? All 50 states having the same, you would. Okay. Would you advocate for expanding the Supreme Court to 13 judges?
No, I like term limits rather than court packing. Again, it's concern about tit for tat becoming a political football. I think it's easier to move them back to the appellate court, since their appointments are a lifetime after a period of time.
Okay, so let's unpack that a second. So term limits going into effect when?
Well, so it would be. I don't think we'd be able to get it passed if the judges that were already appointed were not grandfathered in to the system. That's almost always the way the government does things.
So therefore, there would be no change to the court. In other words.
No, yeah, there wouldn't be any change to the court until the next generation, until these guys were done.
So you get Thomas and Alito out pretty quick because
right. So the issue, I guess the issue with that, I'm going to challenge that thinking, because that would be progressive leaning policies, because we have to swing the pendulum on the judiciary back, because for the last 50 years, either funded by the Heritage Foundation and other right-wing activists, that's what doesn't get discussed enough. The underpinning of our society is the court system. And that's where the targets were. That's where they started. They started at the local judiciary, the federal judiciary, and they've been packing the courts across the country for decades. So to fight back, we have to swing the needle back, and we can't wait. We can't wait for terms to expire. I would be willing to have the conversation about term limits. I think that's certainly something that needs to be addressed. But to grandfather the people that are already there, Amy Coney Barrett's 54 years old? Yes. She could potentially be on the Supreme Court for another 30 years. Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, et cetera. So I would ask you to reconsider that thinking a little bit. And I guess then the last question that I have on my rapid fire, would you advocate for statehood for DC?
Let me just say, that's a good point, Steve, and I'm going to think about that further.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, I would advocate for statehood for DC and for Puerto Rico if the Puerto Ricans want it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So on the, the Supreme Court thing got me 100% all day. So I have an intense reaction to the categorization of packing the court and a criticism for tit for tat. As a Black woman in this country, I give zero fucks about a tit for tat at this point. I don't care. What I know is that historically, politically, and legally, there is precedent for expanding the court to 13 justices, one for every district. That's not packing the court. That is having a court that adequately represents the United States of America. What I also know is that Congress understood this. In 1868, when we had a fascist racist president and we had a fascist racist Supreme Court, what Congress understood was when we had the South and they had no desire to honor the 13th or the 14th Amendment, and they passed the Reconstruction Acts and they divided the country up into the southern districts into the South into 5 districts and sent the military in, which is why we have Juneteenth to celebrate this month. They understood that Congress's job isn't to care what people's perception is, but it's to protect the people. That is what Congress's job is to do, and not to care about anything else and anybody else's interpretation or ideology or thought process around what that looks like. And so what we know is that when Congress in 1968 passed the Reconstruction Acts, and they were challenged in their constitutionality, and Congress understood that a racist Supreme Court was going to absolutely overturn those. Look, it potentially could with birthright citizenship. It did a couple of things. Number one, it changed the law and the jurisdiction under which the Supreme Court could hear certain court cases, and took the McCardle case right out from underneath them in the middle of deliberations, which was amazing, right? And then number two, that is when it expanded the court officially to 9 justices, right? Because it understood that we needed balance. That's not packing the court. And for me, I have a timeline in which everybody that I've talked to about thinks is a great idea. And so I'll run it down, and then I'd love to hear your feedback on it. So what I think that we need to do is over the next 5 months, we need to get serious about winning elections and having an actual winning strategy, because Democrats don't tend to be very serious other than to say Trump sucks and we shouldn't let Republicans stay in power, right? So that would be one. It needs to be based on data. It needs to be based on the facts of what's already happened and what the potential is moving forward. The way that we go about doing that after the data is to build connection in our communities through conversations that are meaningful. Some of that is around the data, like I just shared with you about Congressional District 23 and what it looks like and what the impact is on people and how that impacts them and what we can do about that. And then the third piece is government accountability. So 5 months from now, when we have a Democratic majority in the House and in the Senate, we continue to find progressive candidates that don't care about the establishment anymore and are ready to do what they need to do. We need to understand that primaries are for your personal preference, right? After the primaries, whoever wins is who we vote for in the general election, because we do this step by step and we understand we got to do what we got to do. By the time we get to 2027 and we have a Democratic majority in the House and in the Senate, Then we begin the process of using budget reconciliation to put the money back that they took out of all of our programs. We need to take money away from ICE. We need to take money that was stripped from the Department of Education and put it back into the Department of Education from the Department of Labor, right? Because our children are not workhorses. I don't care what the fuck Republicans say. After that, by the time we get to the middle of 2027, we do the first round of government accountability. That has nothing to do with Trump. I don't even want to talk about that man. I want to talk about the worker bees. I want to talk about the Dr. Oz's and the Linda McMahons and the Pete Hegseths and the RFK Juniors and the Todd Blanches and the Pam Bondis and the Kristi Noems, all the people that have violated the oaths that they took to this country, and many of them their law licenses, and then use the power that we then have with the majority in the House and the Senate to impeach and remove those people. And so we do that, and now we're at the second half. We're at the second half of 2027, and we now are getting ready into 2028. And guess what? Every establishment Democrat knows they better have their shit together for 2028, or they're not staying in office. So they're either going to get on board or get out. And I don't think that we do that by putting the financial burden on average working class people. I don't want to hear people say we've got to get the money from other people. Nope. Number one, I think that if you lead a campaign and people know how much you care, the money will come, right? It did for Mamdani. I've never seen a candidate say, please don't send me any more money. I literally saw Zohar Mamdani have to say to people, guys, we've hit the max for this round. Don't send me another dime. Love that. I think that if the Democratic Party and the people that have been funding it for such a long time want to have winning candidates, then they should put all that shit ton of money that they have into progressive candidates that have the heart of the people. So we do that. And then we get into 2028. And here's where this is my favorite move of all. And I say, this is when we Mitch McConnell those motherfuckers, right? This is when we Mitch McConnell, and I'm a veteran. I'm very, very expressive and colorful in my language. It's not a personal thing, I promise. I talk like this a lot. But this is when we Mitch McConnell those motherfuckers. And so what that means is we do the second round of government accountability. So what we do is we expand the court to those 13 districts, and you do that, and you have it so that it gets finalized right around June, July, right? June, July, August of 2028. Why? Because then it's too late for this administration to appoint a single justice, and we have the Senate majority. So even if they tried, they couldn't get that shit through this time, right? Because if you have the Senate majority, you're not getting shitty confirmation hearings coming on through. So that's the second part. And then you win the presidential election. So then you have a Democratic majority in the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And so then you go into 2029 by impeaching and removing Alito and Thomas. And now I have 6 open seats in a 13-seat Supreme Court. And I have a party and a Congress that understands they're either going to work for the American people or they're going to get the fuck out of the way.
Right. And that's the thing. It's not tit for tat because it's 13, and it's 13 for a specific reason, right? It's not just arbitrary. It's 13 districts. Each district would be represented, right? Each federal district, right, would be represented. So
Lions are better. I don't think sorry, Lisa, Lions are better. I'm not sure if you understand math and strategy, but expanding the court right now when we don't have a single majority is just asinine and dumb. That's not Democrat logic. That's just card being smart. And if you don't like that, I don't know what to tell you, and I really don't care. But I'm just saying, give me a process that sounds better than mine, and we can have a discussion. But if you're just going to criticize from the stands without having done any of the work that I'm done, I'm not interested in your opinion, sir.
That's fair, Danny. I think the difference is I don't think Alito and Thomas will be in the court until 2029. I think they're going to look for a way out before then, so Trump can't appoint the judges. I don't disagree with your strategy, but I don't think they're going to be in the court for that long. So that's the only other issue. So my concern is if we don't consider revisions to the court, we're going to get 2 younger versions, more extreme versions of Alito and Justice.
But I am saying do revisions to the court in 2028.
If I could just finish one second. The whole point behind that is if we don't address taking back the Senate majority to put a blockade, you could potentially have 7 justices on the court, because I don't know if Alito and Thomas will survive, meaning that they are going to be done with their careers, with the intent for Trump to nominate 2 younger judges. So I don't disagree about court reform. It has to happen. I just don't think I think it's going to be a hell of a lot sooner than 2029.
No, but so I didn't say court reform 2029. I actually said Senate majority in 2026, maintain it in 2028, court reform in the middle of 2028, and then the additional round of taking out Thomas and Alito if they still exist in 2029.
Yeah.
Court reform was before 2029. I didn't wait.
Yeah, I got that. But my point was, I don't think they're going to make it till 2029.
I think Trump's going to try to push them out. Like in the Republicans, right? Like that's what I think he's going to try to push them out before the midterms.
But even at that, here's my point. But even at that, the very first thing out of my mouth was having a Senate majority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To prevent. Yeah.
So no matter what, I'm still saying Senate majority is step one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, because the Senate majority would be able to block any nominations either way. Yeah, and we could like, and that's the Mitch McConnell part of it. Senate majority becomes the Mitch McConnell of it all and prevents anybody from being put in that seat, whether they retire or not.
So the court runs short potentially, which is what I think the strategy should ultimately be until we can make those changes.
Yeah.
I think something and I'm glad you touched on the AI bubble, and I don't think people understand it. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. We've been throwing a lot of stuff at you, Aaron. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of tell us a little bit more about the people in your district. I know that area very, very well, because of this part of the world that I live in. A lot of people don't necessarily know your area. So tell us a little bit about your district. If you were to draw us a picture of a person in your district, who is that person? What do they look like? What is their job? What is their median income? What kind of house do they live in? What's their education background?
And we're going to get back to the AI bubble from this?
The reason I ask is because that's going to help us inform how much knowledge people in your district have about the concern that we all have regarding the AI bubble.
Okay. So the average, I'll say, voter in my district is probably a 65-year-old woman. She's a retired teacher or perhaps a retired nurse. If she's healthy, she's probably still working, doing something full time. And, the median income in the district is $41,000 a year. And down here in Cattaraugus County, it's $29,000 a year. So, she pinches her pennies. She probably still reads her local newspaper and reads her mail. And she does her social media mostly through Facebook, if she does it at all.
So is your concern that we all share? The reason I asked that question as it relates to my next follow-up regarding the AI bubble, does that matter to that voter?
Yes. For I think a couple of reasons. People here have seen their electricity bills triple in the last year, many of them. That's because of infrastructure investments that New York State is making, and because of the spiking price of commodities. But people are angry about that. They don't think that the state government is being transparent. They don't think Governor Hochul is being aggressive enough. My person can't pay her electric bill. And the AI data centers that nobody's pushing back on are slated to double the load on the state's power grid in just a couple of years. Mm-hmm. So, and at the same time, we're being told that we can't do electric school buses because the infrastructure can't take it. 50,000 electric school buses is a tiny fraction of what these AI data centers are going to take. So yeah, I think she's concerned about that because she's concerned about cost. But maybe this is a concern for more of a millennial voter like me. But in 2008, we had a bubble, and what we ended up with were 500,000 homes with nobody living in them that were unsellable and just, being prowled around by coyotes in suburban Phoenix. We do not want to waste a bunch of time and land and resources building a bunch of infrastructure that we ultimately don't need after the bubble bursts. And I think that's where we're headed right now.
Okay, that's fair, because obviously we've talked about a lot of things that that have to be top line important to everyone. Affordability. Yes, I know it relates to the rising cost of energy, but there's a mortgage crisis. There's an affordability crisis for housing. We've got healthcare, cracks in our healthcare infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just when we're talking about the prioritization, because you don't even reference AI on your website as it's not a priority to you. It is, but it's not referenced in your pitch. And I know we're all passionate about it, and we should be, because we can look at what's happened to the water in Georgia. We can look at the power grid in Tahoe, just over the Sierras from California. We know the impact it's going to have on there. Access to public utilities is going to be drained. Is it resonating enough for you to flip that +10 red district in your race? Is that important enough to your voters?
I mean, Steve, I feel like that's still an open question. So we're pushing on it now because of the feedback that we get, that people seem to care about it across the board, and that it's a big issue in a bunch of these individual communities. So we go there, and that's what people are talking about. But the other thing that people are talking about is healthcare, because they're actually seeing facilities in their communities close. Their premiums are getting jacked up. Their access is going away. So, I don't like having to choose between those. But that's why you see healthcare front and center on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Aaron, I don't know if you had a hard out. I think I think it was until 10 o'clock, if I'm remembering.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just love hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, no, and we're happy to have you, but I know some of you guys have other stuff that you got going on. So we didn't want to keep you, if you didn't want to be here, we're not, holding you hostage. But I know, and I'm going to do the 30-second elevator pitch version of this. But I know a lot of people don't really understand it, but private equity and these big corporate, AI conglomerates Elon Musk and David Sachs and Mark Zuckerberg, they are about to pretty much rob our 401ks and our retirement funds. They're about to do a bailout of their companies with our retirement funds. Private equity is a pyramid scheme, right? And they ran out of investors. The long and short of it is they ran out of investors. And so they decided that they were going to get Trump to give them access to our retirement, our 401ks, our, federal TSPs and all that kind of stuff. And now AI, the AI bubble, they know it's a scam. They also ran out of investors. They are what they're about to do, and SpaceX is going first. Elon Musk gets to go first because he's Trump's buddy and helped him get into the White House. So what they're going to do is evaluate SpaceX at $1.5 trillion when it's barely worth, 18 billion. And that's pushing it so that, and they changed the rule. They recently changed the rule so that they only have to wait 6 months instead of a year. They don't have to show any kind of viability or profitability or anything. And then our retirement funds will be required to invest in their fund, in their company, because it'll be part of a larger fund of companies.
Index funds.
Index funds. Yeah, it'll be part of a larger index fund and will be required to invest. So there is a rule right now going on. It just passed. It just ended the comment phase, the public comment phase. And this one is for the private equity firms. These ones are for the private equity firms to get a hold of our 401ks. Hopefully that won't happen. That rule won't go through, but the AI company one, the fake valuations, all that stuff is already happening. SpaceX is going live on the 12th, June 12th, and they will require the 401ks to buy into it at the top rate when they go public. So I don't know. I'm not down with all the lingo and all the acronyms or whatever, but that's my understanding of it. And so I've been telling everybody who will at least listen to me for a minute that this is what's coming and this is what they are doing. I keep saying it, and it's so accurate that they are stripping our country and its economy like a car they stole. They already took the tires and the rims and the engine, and now they're just taking the trim off the car. Yeah. And that's what's happening.
It is. Thanks for saying that, Lisa. And I mean, you're right. This is all happening. It's really troubling. The Fortune 500 and the major exchanges have gotten so disconnected from the real economy, and people out here can see it, like the K-shaped economy thing. One of the things that I'd really like to do, if I'm blessed to have a little time in Congress, is make it easier for folks to invest in their local communities again. All of the major cities in North America used to have local stock exchanges. It used to be the case that companies could do their own stock offerings. Post 1929, we did a lot of good reforms like the FDIC. We also sort of vacuumed all that up into Wall Street and really locked down what individual investors were able to do. Now, the way it is right now, unless you're what's called an accredited investor, that is, if you own more than $1 million of assets through free and clear, if you're not one of those people, then you basically can't invest. And that doesn't make any sense. Wall Street has become a casino, and the whole reason we were supposed to invest in index funds is because they're safe, predictable assets. Well, when these folks are in charge, they're not safe, predictable assets.
They're not safe.
And the chances that an established local business, your local HVAC company or a local car dealership, will go out of business in a given year compared to the chances that one of the Fortune 500 will experience bankruptcy in a year, it's way less. Like, this company is much more stable than that company. So I would like to see the SEC change some rules to make it more easy for people to put at least part of their savings into their own communities. That, it's a common good thing. It helps our communities, but it also allows people to invest in the real economy and disinvest from this ridiculous casino that's being run by gangsters.
Yeah, no, I agree. Danny, did you have another question?
I mean, no, I don't think. I think just a follow-up about your housing response. This is me digesting with my ADHD self. When you said you were more, I know you kind of chuckled at me. I know, I'm just saying, my brain just, okay. I hear you about supply and about deregulating and making it easier. Can you share with me your hesitancy or the lesser interest in attacking that from a financial perspective, right? Because I think one of the things that is frustrating, number one, I've never in my lifetime, and I'm a Gen X, right? I've never seen so many working class poor people defend sickly rich people in my life. I've just never seen it. It's absolutely asinine to me, right?
It's exhausting.
Yeah, you like that phrasing, sickly rich people. Yes.
It's exhausting. It really is.
It is. And I think it's why you saw me get very passionate about the conversation about we got to get the money from other places. I am so I feel some kind of way because we keep putting, even if you deregulate that, all of those things benefit the corporations that are building the housing. You know, yes, that increases supply, but literally it's more breaks for them. It's less regulation for them. It's more money for them. It's more this for them. It's more that for them. I really just want to know, how do we go about helping regular working class folk? And why do we seem to always be hesitant to help them financially, but we will help the hell out of rich people with more money every time we turn around?
No, I think, I'm glad we're going back to this, because that's exactly what I want to do. I'm not interested in helping rich people get richer, and helping developers like bring catastrophic change to communities. That's what I want to avoid. So we believe two things about housing in America that are opposed. The first is housing is an investment. It's the most important investment for middle-class people, and so its price must always go up. The other thing is housing is shelter. It's a human right. Everybody needs it. So it must always be affordable. These things are fundamentally in conflict, Danny. You see that? So we've lived with this conflict since the post-World War II era, when government started getting directly involved in the housing market. And we've now reached a really absurd place where the finance conversation is totally disconnected from the shelter conversation. In the finance side, you're getting crazy proposals like $25,000 down for every new home buyer, which would just instantly raise the cost of every home by $25,000. And the 50-year mortgage, which is just like, you're just buying is renting now. Buying has become renting. So on the supply side, I favor housing reforms that will create incremental change. And the reason why is I don't want to simply pump a bunch of money into the largest corporate developers that have the ability to wait the longest. I want to empower local people to rebuild and expand their communities. When you expand housing incrementally, there are a couple of things that happen there that are good. It's very hard for a large corporation to do ADUs or splitting a house into a duplex the way they can build tract housing. They're basically not going to be interested in that. So you're going to empower small developers, like local contractors, to do that work, even homeowners. The other thing is, right now, it's easier to borrow $20 million in America than it is to borrow $20,000 for most people. So the kind of it's not micro, but like mid-level finance that you need for these projects is often really hard to get. The right place to go would be credit unions and community banks, but they often have limits on how they can lend to these sorts of projects. There are bills out there that would make it easier for those kinds of lenders, like locally based lenders, to lend to these locally based projects. And the net result of this is that instead of neighborhoods experiencing catastrophic change, all at once changing to a finished state, the high rise next to the single family home, or our green fields disappearing the way they have been for the last 40 years or so. Instead, we get neighborhoods that are thickening up, like they're incrementally changing based on choices made by the people that live there, not by some huge corporation out of state. So that is the kind of solution that I would like to see happen. And it takes lots of little tweaks, and it's not a lot of big financial decisions made by the federal government that would overall be an attempt at a bailout for the housing sector. Does that make sense?
Give me one second. We have a situation here. I need to look outside. We have a horrible chemical facility here, and it just sounded like something bad happened, and they had a massive leak yesterday. But literally my whole building just shook. So I'll be right back.
Oh,
Sorry.
wow.
Dave, Danny. I want to follow up on something, Aaron, because the statement you made about the $25,000 incentive would just automatically raise home prices. That's a bit of a conservative talking point, because that's a down payment component of home purchase. that's the intention behind that program. I think we have to be really careful when we use that level of language, because that was something that was used against Kamala Harris during the campaign. That it's going to automatically elevate the cost of housing.
And it's a misconception too. It's a misnomer. I didn't say what I did, but I'm a statistician with the Department of Labor, and I'm surrounded by economists, federal economists. And the idea that giving working people money increases the asset prices or prices of anything is propaganda that we've been sold. Besides, the way that Kamala Harris wanted to do it was a credit, like a tax credit, which would have been after the fact, like when you did your taxes. So so it wouldn't have been on the front end. And I think that what you were thinking of, if it's like, okay, well, if people who are selling the homes, real estate agents and all that, knew you had 25,000, they would just get the sellers to increase the home by 25,000. Also, we used to have a situation, right, in this country where wages were tied to production and tied to inflation, right? And when we talk about inflation, we're talking about asset inflation. So homes were always affordable to the middle class because our wages kept up with inflation and kept up with an increase with our productivity. So we were getting raises. What happened to Steve? We were getting raises. I don't know. Everything just blinked. Anyway, so we were getting raises, because our productivity went up, and
until 1979.
Until Reagan came in, and as inflation went up, we got COLA, right? We got cost of living adjustments. Right. And Reagan also stopped that. He's like, oh yeah, well, inflation's not going to go up anymore because guess what? Suckers in the working class, you're not going to have enough money to cause inflation to go up because you're not going to be able to buy shit. Sorry. It's this. You're passionate about data centers. I'm passionate about the economy and taxes and stuff. Steve, I accepted you up, and what happened? Okay. Something is just happening tonight.
I don't know what happened there. That was totally weird. The entire screen froze.
So, yes.
Nobody else's house shook, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It felt like the screen shook.
Yeah.
Danny, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. It is. I don't know. Mila was saying, she said, Tutu, what was that? Tutu, what was that? I was like, baby, I don't know. She was like, that scared me. She said, I didn't know. I thought it was. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't fireworks, but literally, it was a rumbling, and I could feel the building shake. And I do know that this morning things are kind of heating up around here with this place that was. The land was sold by a politician's son, and it was zoned for light industrial. What they put in is heavy industrial, and it is 1,300 yards away from 2 schools, brand new schools.
Come on.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. No, and literally earlier this year, they had 2 leaks. But now there's a lot of stuff that's going on. There's a lot. There's a whistleblower that's come forward, chemicals being on site before they ever had permits. It's a whole big thing. And this morning, there was talk about what was going on because there were a ton of like police cars and safety cars, like a bunch of cars. And so it just makes me wonder. I'm originally from Northeast Tennessee. If you know anything about Eastman Chemical Company, they are the devil. And so like when it comes to environmental things, I just always know, like Eastman has been out of compliance 11 out of 12 of the last quarters. They're a $10 billion company and they've only been fined $599,000, right? Which is like nothing over the course of 12 quarters. And that's violating the Clean Air and the Clean Water Act. And so with these guys, knowing that politicians and money and stuff is involved, I think the only mistake that they made, and people can take this how they want, but it's a fact. The only mistake that they made is that this area, because it is not quite rural and not in the middle of the urban, it's outside of a metropolitan area. So even though there might be some lower income families around here, the majority, like the average, are six-figure income owners, like within the mile radius, and it's a predominantly white area. And so they have fucked around and messed with white people and white people with a decent amount of money, and so they have been able to get attention that they. I do have a data compliance spreadsheet that is insane. Yeah, I do. Don't judge me, people in the chat. They know I'm I get passionate because I just care about people. And we just have systems for a very long time, Aaron, as you know, that don't take care of people.
Yeah.
And we have to fix that. And I want to fix it faster, more than anything else. And I understand that some things take time, right? But I also I'm over the status quo at 53, and I'm ready for us to make some things happen. But anyway, no, I appreciate you guys asking. I don't know what it was. I'm sure I'll read about it shortly though.
This is Danny. Thank you. This is one of the reasons why I promise to do 18 town halls every year. It's one of the only things that I can promise that I will do if elected, because, God knows what happens. But if you're trying to represent people who are struggling, you cannot do that unless you're close to them and their concerns. And the best way to do that is like on the ground, where you can be next to the chemical plant, and certainly be with the folks that have to deal with it every day.
Yeah. I mean, like literally, children, it's when you can smell the leak, right? And the things that make me angry is they'll put out and they'll say, oh, there was a sheen on the water, but no dead fish, so it's okay. You lie. The lies thou telleth. That is not true. But a lot of people don't know, if you're not familiar with it, if you've never used it, check out the Echo system. Have you ever used Echo?
No.
Okay, so Echo is part of the EPA's website, and it's a database. It's an interactive database. You can look up any company, any area, any whatever. You can see all their violations. You can see what chemicals they use. You can see how they're rated. You can see when they got permits, if they got permits, all the things. It'll even tell you if the violations are considered to be like significant, if they're just administrative, all of that. Echo, but a lot of people don't know about it unless you've been impacted, right?
Yeah, I've never heard of it before. Thank you so much for telling me.
You're welcome.
Companies also, that I want to look up now.
Yes, and now, as if I haven't said enough, but I will also share this with you. If New York State has an existing COPA law, which many states do, and you care about healthcare, you want to get that out of your state. And I personally think, so let me just offer you this, because you're going to Congress, hopefully. So this is something that I wish people in Congress understood about COPA laws. So COPA laws are something that allow you to create a legal medical monopoly. It's created by your state legislature, and in the law that your state legislature makes for them, you actually give them, get this, antitrust protections on state and federal levels. Yes. So the largest medical monopoly created using a COPA is back home where I'm from in Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. It is a region that is geographically the size of New Jersey, and one healthcare organization controls about 97% of the inpatient population. Okay, just to give you an idea. They own pharmacies as well, nursing homes, rehabilitation centers, you name it, they own it. And
hey, Dan,
yeah,
Steve's got to go, and he just wants to say one last word, and then you can finish.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Steve.
Aaron, thanks. I just want to thank you for your time, and I appreciate you being willing to accept feedback. I want to go back to the initial question I made about how people are looking for fighters, and we can dissect policy all day, every day. I'm a policy wonk. I care about policy, but what we've seen now is our representation in DC in particular. We need fighters. So we started to pull some passion out of you, and I appreciate level-headed approaches to things, but sometimes you just got to take the gloves off. sometimes you just got to get dirty, because that is a draw. That's appealing to people, to see people that are willing to share their passion about the things, because the things that you stand for, most of us agree with. I mean, there's some things that I don't disagree with what you said. I think we unpacked a lot of that stuff. But by and large, I'm about public education reform. I'm about fixing our decrepit healthcare system, making sure we're prioritizing the rights for women and marginalized communities in general. But I would encourage you to share that level of passion that we eventually pulled out of you more often. Yeah. That's my request. And I hope if I can help at all, I've been on many, many campaigns. It's kind of what I do on the side. If I can help at all, please reach out. Lisa, as always, thank you. Danny, always great to see you. Please be safe, friend.
You too,
love
friend.
you very much.
Thank you. Much love, Steve. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you so much.
You got it. Bye.
Okay.
Steve wanted to do his MAGA hunting.
Yeah. I don't hunt MAGA. You know me.
Yeah. I don't have the patience for it. I would pull my hair out.
Even if I did, so here's the thing. If MAGA falls my way, Lisa, you know this about me. We can talk all day. I'm good with it. I just don't go hunting them down into their spaces, because what I find is that they're not looking for a real conversation. If they come into my space, I can get them in a real conversation. And then that's when I'm able to, do the MAGA whisperer thing and get them to turn around.
Yeah, it's like the difference between you being in their house and them sitting at your kitchen table. And
100%.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So you do have a COPA law. I just looked it up. Okay, a certificate is called it's called a certificate of public advantage. But here's the thing. So not only do they get state and federal antitrust protection in my state, the senator who was the chair of the Health and Welfare Committee was also a contracted vendor for the healthcare systems before the mergers and then after, right? So no real conflict of interest there. I don't know why anybody would be concerned, right? And it was interesting because when they wrote the law, check this out. They wrote the law and it says that if you wanted to claim intervener status, if you were going to be negatively impacted like this in some sort of way and you wanted to challenge it in court, they put into the law that you had to put up an appeal bond before you could even take them to court to challenge the COPA law. And they put in the law that if you lost, you had to pay the healthcare corporation's attorney's fees. But if you won, they did not have to pay yours. This is how, I see your whole face right there, Aaron. I see your whole face. Trust me. Lena Khan is, she knows all about this particular COPA and all that. Like, I know she got sick of seeing my ass the whole time she was in the FTC, but she knows all about COPA laws. But what people don't understand is that, so when I went to Congress, so I led a little bit of a protest. It wasn't not intentionally. My grandbaby was born there. They did a bunch of horrible things. People asked me to help. And that led to me and some other folks living outside of a hospital 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 257 days. And we collected about 28,000 signatures. We took them to Congress. That's why Marsha Blackburn hurts me today. And I love that for her. Fuck Marsha. And when I had this conversation with her and I asked her to help people, she also doesn't do town halls, by the way. She said, oh, well, that's a state issue. But here's my thing. And you know this being in rural places. Rural healthcare systems, the majority of their patients are on what? Medicaid, Medicare, and TRICARE, right? Yeah. So in my region, 70% of the inpatient population is on government insurance. And I feel like if we are going to create legal medical monopolies and we're going to give them antitrust immunity and certain protections, then we should hold them to a significant standard, or they don't get the funding, they don't get the reimbursement. And maybe there's a situation where, something happens and they end up getting some sort of housing authority or some sort of federal oversight so that the people don't lose access to care, but the corporation loses the profit from the care money. Does that make sense? And that's something that I think, because Marsha was like, well, this is a state issue. And I said, well, not really. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, two things. Number one, they put into the law that I can't access the courts unless I have a money for appeal bonds. And that violates the 14th Amendment, Marsha. Number one. Number two, it's federally funded dollars that go to pay for the majority of their stuff. So you're in Congress. I don't know if you know that, but that's kind of your job, the federal piece. So, and then she sent me down to talk to Lamar Alexander, but fuck both of them. But just saying, that's something that if you're not, they tend to put them in rural communities. and not good for people.
Wow. When was that COPA law passed? Did you see that?
In New York.
Incredibly quick research that you did there.
Yeah. So, so yours is public law. It's public health law, Article 29-F. And look at yours. It's even on the FTC site. Sorry, give me 1 second. Some of them are old, and some of them are new. So and yours has been on the book since 2014.
All right.
Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a healthcare corporation that is using that law in this moment, but they could.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that even if the law is on the books and not being utilized, that's still problematic. You want to get it off the books, period. Yeah. Or you want to get some sort of, and this is one of the things that I think members of Congress would, if they did more of it, people would love it. I would love to see more members of Congress collaborating with and talking with their state legislatures and talking about how they work together for the protections of the people on both a state and a federal, because these things do blend, right? Mm-hmm. If you live in a state where 70% of your Medicaid funding is from the federal government, even though part of it is state, holy geez, that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I just think that Congress should do something, and healthcare is kind of my jam. Lisa is like taxes and economy. Healthcare is where you will get me all day long, 10 toes down. Yeah, Lisa knows. Shut up, Lisa. And just taking advantage of people. I just don't think that we should be doing that. And so I'm pragmatic, but I'm pragmatically passionate.
And that's okay, Aaron. Yeah. And I do feel like you are trying, because you're in a Republican plus 10 district. And Danny can get into this. Danny actually has data for your district that can tell you exactly where to go to find the voters that you need.
Yeah, let me show you.
You see how fast she did that research, right? So Danny already has a database set up where you can go. You can get access to this database. All you need is your email address and to sign up for it to get access to it. You can get access to the data that she has compiled for voters for the last couple of election cycles, for districts where it was won by 10%, right? And you said that's what it was, 10 points, right? 10%.
Yeah. So I'll show you two things. I see his whole brain. You're a bit of an analytical guy, and I love that about you, because you'll get that it makes sense. So 2 parts to this. In 2023, I took a look because I'm from Rural Spaces, and I did some stuff with ruralorganizing.org. If you're not familiar with them, Matt Hildreth is a great dude. And he asked me to kind of chime in. They were going to do a project called the Top 100 Rural Counties in 2023, right? To build power for 2024. And when he asked me to take a look at it, the way that they approached it was they had this database with all these rural counties. And initially what they were looking at was, this county we selected because it had a great climate campaign that won. And I was like, but that don't mean you can build power there. Like, that's just an asinine way to think about it. So I went at it from a data-driven perspective. And so I'm going to show you 2 spreadsheets. This first one, if I could turn me around, because, TikTok's been changing everything these days. Lise, how do I? Okay. Thank you, TikTok. Love that. Okay. So, I turned my camera out. Oh, there. Maybe fuck my life. There we go. Oh my gosh. Okay. So this is 2023. All right. And so I'm going to show you New York because that's where you are. So I did 17 states in 2023. And in New York, these were your rural counties that had margins of 10% or less, right? So Broome, Clinton, Columbia, Cortland, Essex, Franklin, Orange, Otsego, Saratoga, and Warren. And then I took a look at those counties and those margins, but not just in 2020, but also in 2022, 2023, 2024, whatever. And then I also wanted to look at the number of registered voters, the population, what percentage was registered to vote, what percentage was actually coming out, both for presidential, for gubernatorial, for Senate, and so forth and so on. And what percentage of that was it for the population? And so then when you get down to the House level, this is where it gets interesting. You start to do this. So once I identify the counties, then I identify what House districts do they have in common. Now, why is that important? Because I'm not going, oh, what House district do I want to change? I'm going, where do I already have margins that are flippable? Where do I have margins where we can automatically build power? And then what does that look like, right?
Yep.
So these are your kissing cousins. You got 19, 21, and so forth. And then when you go down here to the end, I'll show you what it looks like. If I scroll down to Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Colorado, Virginia, dear God, North Carolina, Texas, New York. All right. So in New York, this is what I selected from a rural perspective. So in New York, we chose this state. You had a 23% margin. You had a voting difference of just under 2 million, right? You had over 53,000 registered voters in these rural counties that didn't vote. Mm-hmm. And so that only accounts for 3% of your voting difference. Cool. But look at House District 19. And it was flipped in 2022. It was a 1.6% difference, 4,500 votes. Holy crap, right? And then you had 113 registered voters that didn't even bother to vote. So this tells you where you can really go about targeting these people. You do the same thing in your Senate race. It's a 14% difference, and so forth and so on. And so this is a roadmap. When I talk about from a pragmatic perspective, this tells me where to go and who to start talking to. From a campaign perspective, check this out. If I know that I live in a state that doesn't have automatic voter registration, but I have registered voters that's like 80% voter registration, then I'm not spending campaign dollars registering people to vote. I'm spending campaign dollars on getting people out to vote, getting people re-engaged in the voting process because they're already registered, which means at one time they wanted to participate. What happened, right? So that's the first part. For where we are today, the second go round, and I got to find the right tab. I told you ADH, don't blame me for my spreadsheets. That's not the one that I want. Hold on, I'm going to have to spread it out. Okay, 2026. There it is. So this is 2026 roadmap to win. So what I looked at for 2026 is there are 10 states in 2024 that had margins of 10% or less. So then I looked at those 10 states. You can see them all down here at the bottom. And then I looked at every county in those states that had margins of 10% or less. Okay. And then I looked at, okay, so you got margins of 10% or less in this county. How long's that been going on? And I looked at since 2020 till now. And so if for the majority of those last 5 to 7 races, those counties stayed on it, then it comes down to here. So I'm going to give you Michigan as an example. So Michigan, I ended up with 16 counties. These 16 counties, for the majority of the last 5 years worth of federal elections, all had margins of 10% or less. And I actually crunched the numbers, 2020, presidential, Senate, House, you get the gist of it, right? And then I did what I just showed you. Once I got to the 2024 House, I wanted to see what districts they had in common, what registered voters didn't vote, and then how many of those registered voters voted third party. And then this is how it looks like in a pragmatic approach. So on a presidential level, 80,000 votes was the voting difference in Michigan for the presidential election in 2024, right? In just these 16 counties, 47,000 people voted third party. That is 59% of this damn deficit in just 16 counties, right? Michigan has like 80 some counties. Wow. And then in just these 16 counties, 1.1 million people didn't even bother to vote, but they were registered. Okay. So in Michigan, this is where I'm going all day long, day in and day out, all the way from now until 2028. I am absolutely not that I'm not going everywhere else, but I am focusing where my low hanging fruit is, where I can make a difference. Now, I want to show you something because you're in a 60-40 district. So is Jack Bergman in Michigan. And this is where it gets real good. All right. So out of these 16 counties, 4 of Jack's counties are on this list. Okay. So they had 101,000 voting difference, and Benzie, Grand Traverse, Leelanau, and 3% of the votes needed. Guess what? There are 20 to 25 counties in this district. It's the largest geographic size district in all of Michigan. Okay. So that tells me if I work on these 4, I can cut this deficit in half. And Cali Bar's got a fighting chance. If this is a 60-40 district, Dems are running at plus 13 already, and I can cut this deficit in half, and I still have 20 other counties to target. This now becomes flippable, right? And so I did those numbers for Wisconsin and Virginia and New Jersey and all the way across the board. But remember when I said be pragmatic and strategic about winning elections? The second part, though, is what? Having conversations with people that build connection about the things that really impact them. So you're like, well, Danny, how the hell do you know how many people were going to lose whatever? So then what I did was I then built a Google Drive. And I built a Google Drive, and no, nobody pays me for this. This is my own shit because I don't know. But these are your state resources. So everybody that joins my community that wants to be part of what we're doing, they get a link to this Google Drive. And for every single state in this country, I can click your congressional district, and you can share graphics with the people in your community and say, hey, I don't know who you know that might be on Medicaid, but this is what's about to happen to our folks because of the reduction in funding, because of the one big beautiful bill. This is what's going to happen with SNAP. This is what's happening because of the premium subsidies that expired. And now I'm not talking about Trump. I'm not talking about Republicans. I'm saying, hey, neighbor, I don't know about you, but I know people on Medicaid. I know people on SNAP. And even if you didn't lose it this year, that federal funding continues year after year after year between now and 2034 if we don't change that, right? And so this is where we're at.
So, Aaron,
Sorry.
when did you say they did the redistricting and changed your District 23?
2023.
2023. So that's why you're a plus 10 now. It used to be more Republican, I guess. I
don't know what Cook Political Report had it prior to 2023. I think it was our plus 12.
Mm-hmm.
We were more extreme is the thing. We didn't have the Buffalo suburbs, and we did have Ithaca. So Ithaca is very progressive. But, it was a big blue dot in a very red district. Made it really hard to run as a Democrat. Actually.
Yeah, because I'm looking at 24, 22, but then I remembered you said it was redistrict in 23. And so you're running on the new maps and now it's plus 10. So we're not really sure. So a plus 10, you should really be able to utilize the strategy that Danny's given you, because she built this for districts that are plus 10.
So, and if you look, right. So this answers the questions, but it's also, if you notice, I'm not demonizing anybody. I'm just telling people what's happening to us. And then I'm giving people information. So even here, this is one of my favorite ones to share with people, myth versus fact. And then I list a bunch of like red, blue, and purple states and the percentage of the working age adults that are on Medicaid who are already working, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'll say, so why are they making this a big deal? Because people are already working. Don't let the rich make working class people blame each other. Corporations should pay a livable wage, right? And then they can scan and they can join the community. Now, here's what's crazy. We've only been at this for 11 weeks. In 11 weeks, and I'm updating numbers right now, so I won't be able to, that's literally why I hopped on here. And then I heard you guys talking. So this is what we look like on a map in just 11 weeks. We are in 48 states and in 446 counties. We're at more than that now. That is 15% of the counties in the entire country, right? Now, to show you, remember when I asked you about the Citizens United bill that Hawaii just did? So this is how this works. So I'm going to give you North Carolina as an example. North Carolina has 100 counties. We have at least one person in 31 counties in North Carolina. So if I go back over here to this Google Drive that I've set up for everybody, and then they go to this that says potential legislations, they can pull up that Hawaii bill. Here's the sample of it, download it. And then guess what else? Here's a sample petition. Print this sucker out. It's 5 pages. That's 100 people. Now, guess what? If I'm in North Carolina and I get one person from every county to get 100 signatures that says, yes, I want you to pass this same bill that limits the power of Citizens United in my state. And then I get all 31 of those people to send it into the state legislature, because we're all connected together, right? We meet every other Thursday. Now, all of a sudden, I have a third of my state asking me to pass legislation that limits the power of Citizens United. I've got 3,000 local signatures. And then what I've told them to do is don't just send it to your state legislature, send it to your local media, send it to your state media, tag them on social media. And all of a sudden you have a powerful request on how we get something done. So this is an ever-growing database. Our next round of graphics, database, is data centers. So that's what we're going to be discussing tomorrow. Last week, it was no wars also means no culture wars. So I'm not going to talk to you about AB. I'm not going to talk to you about trans people. I'm not going to talk about immigration unless you're going to talk to me about how that impacts your healthcare, your education, your housing, your economic mobility. And so these are questions and talking points. This is the law about immigrations, and this is the QR code. And so I design these graphics. We give information to people, and it's to encourage people to have meaningful conversations in their communities. And so people they go to my link tree and they join the Google Meet. We talk, we role play, and we find glimmers of goodness wherever possible. And then you already heard my 2-year plan on how we get on stable ground and fixing things. So, and this is it.
Yeah, Aaron, just so you know, there are 2 things that we do after we interview somebody. One, Farah, right? Farah is one of our producers. She is going to put your website in our link tree. And the other thing that you will get is a thank you email with all of the resources that you will need to join Project for the People, to get access to that data, Danny's TikTok account, and all the things. So you should be getting that tomorrow, the next day, so you don't have to worry about writing anything down, because you will get all the links and all the info.
I was going to ask. Thanks for sharing that, Danny. Did you make PowerPoint presentations about 4 separate issues for like all of those target districts?
Yeah, everything that you saw, I made in English and in Spanish.
Good
all
Lord.
of the graphics. Mm-hmm.
The hundreds of decks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's not your job.
No, it is not my job. I'm a service-connected disabled veteran and a grandmother.
And she goes live 4 or 5 hours a day, 5 days, at least 5 days a week.
And tries to educate people and foster conversations and make people get past the rhetoric that truly doesn't matter, and get to the nitty gritty so that we can actually address what's happening. Because literally, I'm 53. My beautiful grandbabies over there have fewer rights than I did when I was born, which is absolutely wild, right?
Did you ever?
And what I know is, because where I'm from is 96% white, where I'm from is 96% white, 99.99999% Christian, probably Southern Baptist, but, and it's 86% Republican, like it's where I'm from. Mm-hmm. Our median income though is just like yours. It's around 46,000. People there are not dumb. They're just trusting. They're just simple. They believe that what you say should be what you do. And at the end of the day, who they are as people, like the way that they show up in their community, like helping people, doesn't translate to the ballot box. And it's that culture war that's keeping that from happening. So I got you, not sure. So we have to begin to build, and this is my personal belief. I think the anger that everyone sees isn't really anger. I believe that it is fear, and I believe that it is grief. I think that many people are grieving the country that they thought we were. I think many people are grieving the country that we've become, right, that they see. And I think that people forget we've been in this really, really horrible political climate for the last decade.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that, we had a damn global pandemic. So tons of fun, not really, right?
Lots of fun.
Lots of fun. So no, all of this, and it's a work in progress. And so now that we're growing, because I didn't know what people were going to think, right? I just knew what I was being asked every day was, what can we do about it? And I was looking around like, well, nobody's giving anybody an answer. Mm-hmm. So I pulled out Project 2025 and I pulled out Project Esther, and I looked at the format of how the Heritage Foundation approached, because they have a very pragmatic approach, right, to getting things done. And they give you a timeline, and they outline exactly what what they want done. And so I thought, well, we should do that. And so that's what I began the process of doing. So that's it. The meeting is at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. And if you can't make the meeting, I always send out an email that has the link to the recording. So even if you miss it, you can watch it later.
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Aaron, for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure talking to you. Like I said, you'll get an email with all the information that Danny talked about here, the way that you can sign up, the way that you can access like the launch video where she like explains everything.
It's on my YouTube too. The webinar is on my YouTube.
Yeah, that's what it is. We include a link to the webinar, like the thing, from your YouTube. Yep, your YouTube web address. And my link tree is in my bio, right? And we will put your website in there. And then when we're talking about which candidates to support and stuff, because we are big on not giving money to the DNC. We are big on giving money direct to candidates, especially grassroots people who aren't taking corporate and APAC money. And so that's what we do when we direct people to your website. So we're going to do that too. If you, one of the things we always ask is, after you win your primary, will you come back and talk to us again and give us your game plan for how you're going to win the general?
That's cool, Babs.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
Okay, awesome. And just so you know, I was looking it up while Danny was taking you through that. The last time we had a wave election was 2018, right? And your district, and I know it was when it was more Republican, more conservative. The Republican only won by a little less than 9 points, right? And during that wave election, the generic ballot was only +3 Democrats. Right now, the generic ballot is +7 Democrats. So more than double. Like, this is insane. We haven't seen this, and Danny can tell you, we haven't seen anything like this since 2006, 2008. Yeah. Like, that's the last time we've seen polling like this for, Democrats on the generic ballot. That doesn't mean that we don't have to work our asses off, guys. It just means that what we're doing is working. That's what it means. It means that we need to keep doing what we're doing because what we're doing is working.
100%. But nice to meet you. I know I came off like really like in the beginning. It's just certain words like me be like, what are we doing? But it's okay.
It is okay. It is okay. These are extreme times, and we're allowed to feel a way about it. We should be able to do that together. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Danny. Yeah. Thank you, Steve and Michelle, who have had to go. I really appreciate the opportunity. Aaron for ny23.com.
Yeah. Aaron for ny23.com. Okay. So that's where you guys can go if you want to donate, you want to support, you want to learn more about Aaron's campaign. Like I said, we're going to put it in the link tree in my bio. And if you guys want to know more about what Danny was showing you, Project for the People, the links that you will need to sign up is in Danny's link tree in her bio or my link tree in my bio. Okay, guys? And you can reach out to Danny. You can reach out to me or any of the Danikins, Tam or Farah or, any of them will help you. We'll help you and direct you into the right place. So yeah, we wish you all the luck. Do you want to say anything else? Any last words, Aaron?
Yeah, one more thing. If you like what I had to say and you think you might want to throw me a small donation, I encourage you to do that in the next hour and a half, because tonight is our deadline for the pre-primary report. And if we need to show up with a strong number and attract attention to the race and set us up for success in the general. So
excellent.
If you think about it, we'll do it.
Sweet.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Danny, for joining us tonight. Thank you guys so much in the chat and for all the gifts and the taps and everything. You guys did amazing. Always appreciate all you guys coming out to support. Much love to you all. Me and Jonah is going to bed. Jonah is my pirate, by the way.
I'm going back to work.
And Danny's going back to work because her and I could do all the creators that do this full time don't sleep. I could tell you that. That's what they keep telling me.
Yeah.
They don't sleep. That's how you want to know how they get it done? They don't sleep.
Yeah. And power naps.
Yeah.